So we'll be starting in a minute. Give me a minute.
Greetings, everybody.
Welcome, Dr. Izu.
Yes,
Good
God
evening,
bless you.
Dr. Zigo.
Good evening, everybody. Yes. Eh,
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
What a wonderful day. Easter Monday in Nigeria, but we don't get to get Easter Monday in the US. We are grateful, though, that it was Easter Sunday yesterday, and I hope everybody had a fantastic time. Well, welcome to Medical Mondays with Dr. O. We're here for another session that is intriguing. I can't wait for what we will learn tonight about ourselves, about relationships, and what science has to say about it. So Dr. Toyin Okpesomi, a family practitioner, HIV specialist, and I treat addictions in Maryland. Tonight, we have one of our very own, one of our Medical Mondays family, Dr. Kehinde Elisha, who also is founder of the Nurse Practitioner Certification Academy and founder of Relationship Psychotherapist, founder of Confident Prescriber, who is an amazing tutor and mentor and has tutored and mentored so many nurse practitioner students to success. It's rare to have 99%, 100% pass rate for any kind of exam prep. But with Dr. Elisha, that's the story. So I am so proud to introduce Dr. Kehinde Elisha, who will be talking to us about relationship remedy and the scientific explanation to disputes. So without much ado, Dr. Elisha, the floor is yours, and welcome to Medical Mondays with Dr. O.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and thanks so much for that introduction. And I appreciate you bringing me on again. I know my very first episode with you was actually personality as well. I tend to like that topic a lot because it just never ceases to amaze me why relationship goes sour. And that's the first thing I always think about when I see people, uh, you know, they were good together and now they are fighting like cats and dogs. What exactly is it? And when we look deeper into it, it's not like one person is really bad. It's just because one person is not understanding the other, or we are seeing things differently. That's all it is. Or we may have some underlying issues too that we don't even realize as people. And science is going to pull some of it together today. It's deeper than it is, but we're going to go through some just basic ones. So what I've done is we're going to be having some skill session today, which is going to be really fun. For the sake of privacy, I have two participants. I will not mention their names unless they volunteer to speak that my analyses are in fact correct. And if they don't want to speak to it, that's fine. But I have a little bit of abbreviation to their names and I match it with their types. So that will be our fun skill session after introducing my topic today. So yes, today we're talking about personalities and we're talking about it in a different way. We're going to look into it from the foundation, the basic ones that people tend to really understand. For example, the Myers-Briggs personalities. It is just a personality. It's not a disorder. It's nothing bad. Does it make sense? That is why it doesn't matter. Even if you take this test, it's only going to guide you as to, am I on my right career path? Do I interact, in a good way? Do I need to work better at my interaction and so on and so forth? So what exactly is the history of Myers-Briggs? So Myers-Briggs is supposed to be an indicator that was actually developed by Catherine Cook and her daughter, Isabel. And so much, over the years, it has gained so much popularity. Why? Because some people have been able to actually find their career paths just because of Myers-Briggs. When you go to organizations, they will make you take this test, actually. I remember as far back as when I was in college, as a resident advisor, I was asked to take this at University of South Carolina. I didn't know the significance then. And then it pops out again. Someone introduced it to me again a few years ago. Then I was like, oh, I think I've done this before. Then I began to look even deeper into it. Then I realized that it's actually it connected with me. So the first step to Myers-Briggs is you got to take it honestly. No matter how ridiculous the question sounds, you have to take it honestly. Dr. O will help us through the link in the chat right now. So if you want to start taking it, to make this even more fun, if you want to start taking it, like when we get a little breakout session or something, maybe you can take it, or maybe on your own, and then reach out to me, and then we can talk more through it, because there's a lot more beneath that personality that you're going to see. So you will be getting the link tonight. It's free. Make sure you don't pay any money, because there are so many people charging for this personality test. So what exactly is the downside of this personality, though? The Myers-Briggs have gotten a lot of criticism over the years. They've been through so many controversies because, in science, we believe in what? Evidence. We believe in, is it reliable? What is the validity? We don't have it. It's lacking it. And even despite that it's lacking it, this thing is highly protected. Like, you can be a certified, if you like this, you can be a certified MBTI and start running people through and start guiding people through through their lives. So it's a really good tool. Of course, like I said, the science group, we don't really value it that much, but what I'm going to take you through tonight, you're going to value it even more. So now, continued influence. So despite the criticism, the MBTI remains what? One of the most popular personality assessment globally. Millions have taken it. It's not new in most organizations, in most schools, even to some children. Now we have MBTI for children as well, just to guide them through life as they grow. So beneath the Myers-Briggs, what is beneath it? It is the real personality that we know scientifically. That one is 10 types. Myers-Briggs has got 16 types, okay? So there are many personality types out there. Don't be grabbing this and that, okay? Be careful too, because people are just coming up with ideas and we don't throw them around. They're not really grammar. Maybe to some extent I can call Myers-Briggs grammar, but we also have other type of personalities, which is 10 type of personality disorders. That one is not grammar. That one is a real diagnosis. For example, people throw narcissism left and right like it's nothing. People throw borderline left and right like, no, it's not just a grammar. It's not just a vocabulary. It is a real diagnosis, so it must not be used anyhow. Just a little bit of caveat there. So now, what are the types of Myers-Briggs personality? We have 16 types: the extraversion, the introversion, the sensing, the intuition, the thinking versus feeling, judging and perceiving. And what do we think? What does this all mean? What do we understand by it? So the extraversion describes how individuals interact, right, with the world. They focus on the external stimuli. They come to life, really, seriously, when they are when they are around people, let me say, they become more interactive. They become more of themselves, because that's nature for them. Now, what about the introversion? That would be the direct opposite of the extroversion, right? They want to keep to themselves. They are more inward. And there is nothing bad about that either. That is just their nature. Now, what about the sensing? They reflect on how individuals gather information. Sensors will rely on concrete data from their senses, while intuitives focus on patterns and possibilities. What about thinking versus feeling? So with the thinking, this determines how individuals make decisions. Thinkers prioritize logic and objectivity, while feelers prioritize emotions and empathy. That is important to note. So what we prioritize is also based on who we are. Does it make sense? Who we are connects with what we see as a priority. So some people don't see emotion as anything. Does it make sense? Meanwhile, some people see emotions as something huge. However, people that don't see that emotion too, if they are logical, we still need to respect their view too. Some people focus on logic, and we still need to respect that. Does it make sense? Those are the thinkers. And then we have the feelers. Then we have the judging and perceiving. So look, this describes how individuals approach what outside world. Judges would prefer a structure and organization, while perceivers would like flexibility and spontaneity. They don't like too regimented approach. They function better where there's, let's just go with the flow kind of a thing. You know what I'm saying? Meanwhile, the people that are like more of the judges, they want, if you're going to go do something on Monday, you better tell them in advance. If the meeting is 7 o'clock, you better be here at 6:45. Those are the judges, But when we look at it too, there is nothing wrong with both approach. You know what I'm saying? So in either case, we have to all respect. That is where everything starts. we have to respect every individual. But we forget to do so because we expect people to be like us. See, as we think we are a burden to people, as we think people are a burden to us, other people also think we are a burden to them. That's some things we don't see. Does it make sense? But that's something we must think about before we even judge anybody. All right. I'm not going to come here yet to personality types. So I have two clients today, VU and LM. I'm going to code it like that. If you know yourself, keep it to yourselves, and that's it. That is the beginning of your emails. If you know yourself, that's it. All right. So when you took the test, you happen to be ESTJ. That is the VU. And then LM took the test. She happened to be INTP. So this person is extremely introverted. This one is extremely extroverted. So even if you don't know the beginning of these letters, if you don't know the full sentence, like the sensing, the judging, and all that, if you don't know the complete sentence, the beginning always fall under one category, extroverted or introverted. Does it make sense? So now we know we have an extroverted person here, and we have an introverted person here. So that's great. So now, how do I now connect this Myers-Briggs? I can't diagnose or get anywhere with this, really. I can get somewhere. I can predict this person's behavior based on Myers-Briggs, but because there is no validity with Myers-Briggs, you know what I'm saying? I can't make a concrete conclusion based on Myers-Briggs. So therefore, I'm going to make a connection with my second type of personality, okay? That is the 10 types of personality that we actually have. So I want you to focus on just the first two columns. You will now see me connect my MBTI type with my personality disorders. So I'm going to avoid using the word disorders today, okay? I'm going to call it atypical personality. Okay, just not to make it look like some diseased person. You know how we think in Africa too. When we hear disorders, we think somebody's crazy. That's not correct. That would be so disrespectful to say that. So I want to keep it soft. I will call it atypical. Okay, so look, that means, first of all, we have 10 types of personalities. We're going to go through that first. We have the paranoid personality, the schizoid personality, the schizotypal personality, antisocial, borderline, histrionic personality, narcissistic personality, avoidant personality, dependent personality, obsessive compulsive personality. See, there is something I always say, somebody belongs somewhere. We're all going to belong somewhere here, period. The only thing is that the gravity, the degree at which we connect with this is going to vary. Now, what's going to make it a disorder is what? The degree. For example, you work on a unit where you know that nurses don't like you, or where your coworkers don't like you. Every day you get to your job, you're most likely going to recruit. I will recruit the schizoid personality temporarily. I will be schizoid. Because what does that mean? I'm going to keep to myself. But as soon as I step out of that job, I'm on the hallways. Hey, bro, is that what the kids say these days? Hey, bro, you, bro, hey, yo. So I'm going to be myself again to tell you that I'm truly not a schizoid. So my point is, we can actually temporarily recruit any of these personalities depending on the situation. Now, what makes it a disorder is the chronicity of it. Now, if I stay in a 12-hour shift, I kept to myself. I left the unit, I kept to myself. I got home, I kept to myself. I don't talk on phone. I don't have any friends. Now there's a problem. See what I'm saying? And I do this for 365 days in a year, and that's who I am. So that is what's described. So that means we can't just slap this on anybody just because you see them one day. Does it make sense? I can't call Dr. Favor now and say, hey, why are you so quiet? I suspect you have this. No, you don't do that because I don't have enough time frame to determine who they really are. So these things are real diagnoses, and we must not just grab them like vocabularies, like I said before. So I am going to break down each personality types. Once I'm done, I'm now going to connect it with my case studies because I have them on ground right now. Then they will tell me if it is correct or not. You know what I'm saying? If they want to talk. If they don't want to talk, At least I will give them an idea and they can connect with me after the session. All right, so look, I'm now going to break down each of this. The paranoid, what is it? They are like very, very distrustful. They are very suspicious. I have a beautiful image of this actually that I presented before, but I don't have the image on this one because it's not the focus for today. They don't trust. They're very suspicious of others. What about schizoid? They have this detachment from social relationships. They have limited emotional reciprocity. They don't connect too well, right? What about schizotypal? Now, the schizotypal, they have this eccentric odd behavior. They have magical thinking. They are the ones that will be like, oh, that necklace on my neck, that is nothing connected with religion. That necklace on my neck is going to save me. That pendant is going to save me. Oh, I'm looking at the thread right now. It can turn into a rain. They have this schizotypical, imaginations. Now, antisocial and schizoid, they look the same. And our definition of antisocial on the street is not correct. We think antisocial is someone that is not friendly. That is not correct. Antisocial is just a disregard for others' rights, manipulative, deceitful, lacks empathy. They don't have any remorse for anybody. They don't have any regard for the law. So they are not what we think, like, oh, someone that is not friendly is antisocial. That would be a wrong definition. In fact, that is not a word that we should use anyhow. Oh, she's so antisocial. He is so antisocial. You are giving them this description, some terrible, like a criminal, pretty much. Now, borderline personality disorder, that one is pretty much somebody with an intense emotion, very unstable self-image, impulsive behavior, fear of abandonment. They fear constantly that somebody's going to leave them and somebody's going to dump them. They're always feeling like that. They're always feeling attached, right? Now, histrionic personality, they have attention-seeking behavior. They have excessive emotionality. They have this shallow and rapid shifting emotions. Histrionic is you are in New York City, you held a door for somebody, and they're like, oh, I think he's in love with me. I think she's in love with me. So I always say, you know what? A lot of our celebrities, actually, they have histrionic personality traits. What about a narcissistic? They are grandiose. They have need for admirations, like love me, love me, love me, love me, but they are torturing someone else. Does it make sense? Now, what about avoidant personality disorder? They have fear of rejection, feelings of inadequacy, avoidant of social interactions. What about dependent personality? They depend on people, pretty much. We all depend on people, right? At some point in our lives. You see what I'm trying to say now? But now I'm talking about excessive dependence is what I'm talking about right now. At some point, we all depend on people, but excessive. That's what makes it a disorder. What about obsessive compulsive personality disorder? They are preoccupied with what? Orderliness, perfectionism, control. They have this rigid adherence to rules. So one thing I also want to specify here after going through the description of each personality is that this personality, they can come to, we can have two together. Does it make sense? And you can have three together. So, and they also have comorbid conditions too, that goes with it. That's a different topic for a different day. And if we have time today, I can go over that too. But in order to stay on task, now that we figured out the description, you know what I just did now? And now when I tried to blend my MBTI with my personality, I would say with my atypical personalities. So look, that means, and I'm going to go through the rest later. So I do have ESTJ. So we're going to hold on to ESTJ. Okay, let's start with ESTJ. All right, that is ESTJ according to what? Myers-Briggs. I am beginning right here to serve as my template to get to where I need to be. So where I really want to be is, what is the atypical personality that can potentially be an ESTP? I mean ESTJ. So look, if you now look right here, okay, ESFA, ESFJ, ESTJ. Where's my ESTJ? Okay, so the closest thing that I have here for ESTJ is ESFA,
narcissistic personality disorder.
Did you see it?
Is it ES or ENTJ?
ESTJ.
Or ESTJ.
ESTJ. The closest thing I can see here is, which I'm going to look through again. I think I've omitted something.
There's ESFJ. That's what
Yeah, that's the closest thing I can see. Okay. So if it is the closest thing, so what can we see here? But I want the exact match. So let me look for INTP. Okay. Let's
You
take
have two others also. I don't know if you realize. You have two others.
Oh,
You should
really?
have 4 total.
If
I
one, I only got 2. But
Really?
if you have those 2 and you have them,
No,
that'll
I
be great.
don't. It's your email that was in there.
Okay, I'll go back and check again at some point. So we're gonna use INTP is even great because INTP is everywhere,
All
like
over the place.
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely look for my yes, I'm sure there is a match for ESTJ. Okay, so now look at my INTP. Okay, so I can say, okay, for INTP, what irritates this type of person the most? Okay, lack of logical consistency. That's what irritates them, something that will get to them so badly. People that are close-minded, people that lack logical consistency. So what does that mean? So someone that is not logical can easily get on this person's nerves. That's all it means, okay? So this person, this group of people, what careers may really suit them the most? So they might be financial examiners, auditors, research scientists, librarians, statisticians, quality controller, inspectors, and so on and so forth. So what is the main struggle? What is their main struggle with the relationship? In any relationship, they have difficulty trusting other people, and they are constantly doubting their intentions. So they don't trust people. So you can see how this can play negatively to a relationship. All right. Now let's look at INTP again. What else can we see again with INTP? So you have a lot of, I like it because you have a lot to really think through here, that at least 3 of these should match my INTP in the house. INTP in the house. So look, INTP, emotional displays, lack of intellectual depth. All right. Now, INTJ is similar to that too, but we're focusing on INTP. All right. Emotional displays, lack of intellectual depth. This is something that irritates them. That still falls under, they don't like when people are illogical. It's still the same. So what careers, same thing, software, database, and so on and so forth. But what is their main struggle in relationships? They struggle to form close emotional connections and preferring solitude. So look, if there is a problem with you trusting people, can you see how that person that connects with, can you see that person that you're in, can you see how they can have a problem with that once they pick that up? Does it make sense? So it's going to be tough for that person to have an emotional connection with you. That is the root of the problem. Now, the third ENTP right here is still the same. You will see that it's consistent every time. Look, what irritates this person? Norms, logical thinking. If you are illogical, you are not going to be. So if you're just this emotional person, or just emotional, you can't be on the same path with this person because they don't connect with that naturally. It's not because they are bad people. So what is their main struggle with relationships? Again, look, difficulty maintaining social relationships due to eccentric behavior and odd behavior. And I'm sorry for using that word. I didn't write it. It's the literature. So the point here is the conclusion will be, if you are INTP in the house and you truly struggle with this, I would love to hear now so we can take things further. Anybody that is INTP and you can resonate with us? Oh, thank you so much for posting that. Anybody? Okay.
Any takers? Anybody feels they're INTP? I definitely am not.
Okay, if you're not, then I'm going to go through the other types. Then anybody that is other types, if it resonates with you, then you're going to say something that this resonates. Okay, anybody that is ENFP, ESFP, ENTJ. Okay, so we're going to definitely just go through the rest, and then you can take the test after this session to see what really connects with you. You have to take this test and pick it from here, and then we can connect it with what we have approval of. Does it make sense now? I don't like to go deep into Myers-Briggs because Again, we don't have a validity. We have to go with research and science. This one is heavily researched, and this is what we treat. Even if somebody needs a psychotherapist, I will refer them based on any of this. Does it make sense? I will refer them based on any of this. We use this technically to fix relationships. Now, you wouldn't know that you have like atypical personality, okay, unless someone tells you. Because to you, you're perfect. To me, I am perfect. Does it make sense? And it's also based on feedback from the people around you. It is not someone that meets you for 1 day or 2 days a week or 3 times. It's not. That's why we call it. It's based on intimate relationship. They will collect data based on intimate relationships. Does it make sense? People that live with you in the same house with you, people that live close to you, your children, your spouse, your friend, your girlfriend, someone you really live with. That is the only way we collect this data. Again, many people are in denial. Many people don't realize that they have it. All right. So I'm going to quickly go through it and match it up with MBTI. So if you're any of these MBTIs, you will see me going from this personality to this MBTI. Then you're going to see me jumping to the main struggle, because honestly, that brought us here tonight. Your struggles, what are they? You find them out right now, you stop struggling. There is a different session for career. I can also connect this with career. Maybe you are not progressing in your career because it is not meant for your personality. So this can be used for so many things other than relationships. So look, paranoid personality, they are mostly connected with ISTJs and INTPs. So what exactly do we see as a struggle in these people with paranoid personality disorder, and that they have ISTJ and INTP? They're going to have difficulty trusting people, and they are constantly doubting people's intention, people around them. The second one is schizoid personality disorder. What MBTI is it connected with? Let me erase this. Okay, it is connected with what? With INTP and INTJ. So what do we see? They struggle to form close relationships. They struggle. And there is a lot more to why they struggle. By the time we dig into this pathophysiology of personality disorders, you will see why they struggle with relationships, okay? Now, schizotypical personality disorder, what is connected with it? INTP or INFP. They have difficulty maintaining social relationships. What about antisocial PD, ESTP, or ENTJ? They do what? They lack empathy. They have disregard for other people's feelings. And then it leads to shallow relationships. That's deep. And these are things we see clinically, at least based on this, okay? What about borderline personality disorder? These are most likely ESFP or ENFP, okay? So they fear abandonment. They have difficulties regulating emotions, leading to unstable relationships. So what about histrionic personality? So that's, histrionic. That one is more like, I said, is more like someone that is just looking for attachment that is not even there. Like, oh, I think he's in love with me. I think she's in love. I think she's in love with me, just for doing them a little favor. So which one falls under that? ESFP or ENFP? So they crave for attention. They crave for validation in relationships, leading to drama and conflicts. Now, what about narcissistic personality? That would be ESTP or ENTJ. You see why you must take this test for you to connect. That's why. And then what do we see in these people? Difficulty empathizing with other people and expecting constant admiration from partners. That is a narcissistic personality. Now, what about avoidant personality? That's the INTJ and INFP. And they struggle with feelings of unworthiness, and they avoid intimacy due to fear of rejection. All right? So what about dependent personality? That is ISFJ or ESFJ. And they have difficulty making decisions independently. All right? Feeling helpless without constant support. What about obsessive compulsive personality disorder? That is ISTJ or INTJ. Again, they struggle with inflexibility. They have control issues, excessively controlling, and it leads to conflict in relationships. So what is the point of this tonight? You search yourself. After taking the MBTI, is this really your struggle? Start working at it. Do you have the struggles for real? Trust me, this works, okay? And these struggles are defined again based on all this personality disorder, and it's been heavily researched, is in major textbooks. That's why it's really my basis today for tonight's session is not Myers-Briggs, because I don't have a validity, but then it's a good tool to connect together. All right. So those are my clients right there. And that is the beautiful summary. I didn't go through careers because it's not really the focus for tonight. The focus for tonight is really relationships. Anybody want to make this a nice skill session, want to make it interactive, or you don't want to be open because you're scared of what your struggle might look like? Hey, many of us probably do have struggles. I really hope you enjoyed the session tonight. I'm now going to hand over to the host in case she has anything to say or anything to add. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. Nothing to hide. I'll start there.
No, something to add is what I meant, is what I said.
Oh, to add. Okay. So yeah, I want to take the test actually to see where I am, to be, honest with myself. But it's been posted in the chat box if you would like to take the test and you don't mind sharing it and seeing where you are, that'll be great. I would like to do that. I should have done that last night because I did say this, a night before, but I didn't think to do that. This is fantastic. It's fascinating. I totally resonate with this histrionic personality when you said that they are personalities that you do something nice for them and they jump to the conclusion that you're interested in them, right?
You're in love.
That, yeah. If one of my staff members is on the forum tonight, she will be laughing her head off because I just had that kind of experience. And it's true, it does cause drama if one is not careful.
That's why you don't touch any patient.
Sorry?
That's why you don't touch any patient.
Well,
you're trying to be therapeutic, but
unfortunately, in my line of work, touching is important because it is healing, so that's the way we were taught. So you still have to do what you have to do, but yeah, it can create drama. When you said that, I started laughing. That is so true. It is very important that we know what our personalities are and what irritates us so that we can work against those. None of us is perfect, and we would have things that causes irritation. Knowing them is important. To me, it's like having allergies and knowing what your allergens are so that you can avoid them. So when you know what your irritants are, then you can work against those so that you don't allow them to irritate you. But, there's a column that you didn't talk too much about that actually fascinated me. The main struggle with relationships, with all of these personalities, is very important. So knowing what one's struggle is key so that one can then, guard against that. We see a lot of broken relationships and a lot of drama, all because of these relationships. So the floor is open. If you've taken the if you've taken the short survey that was posted in the forum, you may want to send it to Dr. Elisha's email because she will check it right away and maybe comment on it if you don't want your name mentioned. And if you want to discuss, please share so that we can have it as a source of discussion. So for questions, please raise your hand or put it in the chat box.
I can talk more about those, other areas of lives connected to this.
Please do. Oh, Dr. Aluya has his hand raised. Dr. Aluya, kindly unmute. So if you put down the slide, it would help me, for now, although I know you would have to bring it back up to show things and stuff like that. But it helps me to be able to see better. Dr. Aluya, go ahead, kindly unmute. Welcome. Dr. Aluya is our national president for the Nigerian American Public Affairs Committee, NAPAC, that I'm chair of in our region here I cannot say in the East Coast, but in DC, Maryland,
DC MVP,
Virginia, Delaware, and Pennsylvania. But Dr. Aluya is the overall national president. Welcome, Pressy.
Yes, thank you, Dr. O. Spectacular as always. Appreciate this, and I appreciate Dr. Kehinde Elisha, who has come up to talk about this. This is huge and profound. And one of the things you just said just now, Dr. O, as clinicians, we often look at signs and symptoms, and then when we give medications, we also look at the allergies. And you alluded, knowing what your allergies are, so that you know what the triggers are. And this is really huge because a lot of people don't talk about personality disorders. And even when I speak to psychiatrists and a few other people, they don't talk about this. I remember I got into personality disorder and understanding of personality disorder way back from medical school in ABU. We were totally taught this. All of this is personality disorder you just talked about. For some reason, I still remember them. And I view people sometimes based on all this, and it helped me to rationalize the behaviors that they present with. And I remember having a talk like this with a dentist once, when she came up talking about certain issues that she was going through, and relationship and all that with some of her friends and all that. And I brought down all of this personality histrionic, schizoid, all that, personalities that she'd never heard of that before. And these things are really huge in the sense that they kind of determine what outcomes of a relationship that you have with your spouse and people who you work with at work. And in modern lexicon, we talk about what do you call it again? Emotional intelligence. So this, I think, it's another step on a colloquial, meaning on a common street level, on how to understand people's behavior and their personality types, and then how to modify yours so that you're able to manage yours and manage theirs as well. So I'm really glad that somebody, for once, I'm hearing talk about personality disorder, because this is one thing that most people do not talk about. I've, in a long time, never heard any psychiatrists even talk about this. And even in literature, you barely hear anybody talk about it. So I just thought maybe they've forgotten about it. Maybe it fell off on the DSM-10. I'm glad it's on now again. So thank you, and I really appreciate you. Thank you. God bless.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
So it did not fall off, and it had better not fall off, because this is so important. It's so key to everyday life. And if we look deeply into ourselves, we will see that we probably have a little bit of all of those. I like Dr. Elisha's analogy when she started this conversation, that, if you are at a job place that is, traumatic, so to say, people are not friendly, it's not a good place to be, that you may become a schizoid. You may have schizoid personality disorder for the time you're at work. So when you're at work, you may keep to yourself. And, just, so that you can get through work and stay focused on work. And that's schizoid, right?
That's
Did I
right.
get that right?
You're getting it right.
Yes. So thank you so much, Dr. Luya. Auntie Susan Oshifade says, thank you very much for this extensive narrative of behavioral observations. Question: can some of these disorders be managed with time, as most of them could be the results of emotions / environments beyond the individual's control? Thank you, Dr. Elisha. Very properly explained. So what's your take on that?
It's actually, that's one of the reasons why people get it. It's usually genetics and it's usually environmental. Those that you just hit it right on. It's mostly environmental and genetics. A lot of times our upbringing affects who we are to some extent, and sometimes too we pick it up as we grow up. But a lot of times behavior can be modified by those two main things, genetics and environment, and that's correct. But even if at that, no matter what happens, as we grow up, as we live through life, things can still be modified. Things can still be corrected once we realize it. But of course, if we don't even realize there is a problem, we're not looking to fix anything. So the very first step to making a change in relationships is really to realize what the problem is. That is applying the psychodynamic psychotherapy, going down to the root of the problem, seeing what the cause really is. Yeah, that's pretty much, I hope that answered your question.
Well, I want to venture to say that in our culture, what you said is totally true, correct, on the point. However, in our culture, especially, I shouldn't say, I should not even say, especially with men, in our culture, period, it is so difficult to discuss personality disorder. Things
Yeah.
are spiritualized. People don't want to accept the obvious. Most people know too much, and they don't want to change. So it's tough. That's why this subject is so very important. And I'm so grateful that you agreed to come and talk to us again about personality disorder, because this is a huge one in our community. And I pray that by the end of tonight's session, that we will, all have learned something and be willing to look into ourselves, see what personality we have, and see how we can navigate better.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, like, thank you so much. And there is a lot more to actually get out of the personality, especially for the clinicians among us. You can, once you figure out the MBTI, you connect it with the personality types, like the atypical personalities. You can even also connect with, anxiety, whatever they are going through. Also, a lot of times also based on their personalities. And so it's a very huge topic, actually. It affects people more than they think. And personality with relationships, honestly, for example, we see things is about what we see. We're seeing it differently. It doesn't mean anybody's bad. It doesn't mean anybody's good. And I was teaching somebody this last week, and she told me that, well, what if I can't cope with that person's personality? Will I just die in it? Well, I said, well, it's about knowing what that personality type is, understanding it, and then you will not go down that path. You'll be able to adjust, you'll be able to rationalize. So educating yourself is rationalizing, okay, I know why they're like this. I understand this topic. I understand that this is beyond their control. And then you're able to move on. That is how coping starts. Even if you go to a therapist, that's all they're going to do with coping. They're going to show you how to cope, teach you how to cope, tell you things to watch for and things that they cannot control. So it's like when we have people with, stroke, we empathize with them. We feel bad for them. We take care of them like real patients. But then when mental health patients comes around, or when people have these personality issues or relationship issues, we try to say, okay, they should be able to fix it. They should be able to, we try to think it's something like within their control. Let's not forget, these are chemical imbalances, okay? This has to do with structural and chemical too. So we need to connect with that and not push things away and not take things like it's nothing or something that they should be able to adjust to, or they're just acting like a spoiled child, or no, they're not. It's not about anybody acting like a spoiled child, because sometimes we feel that way, but honestly, it's because it is just beyond their control, or they don't even realize what they're doing. So if one of you, at least, if you understand how that personality goes, your understanding of personalities in general will not only help you cope within your own relationships, it's gonna help you cope with relationships in general. Okay. When I go to Walmart right now and somebody starts to curse at me, I come up with like 3 differential diagnoses and I move on. That is just the way it is. When you have the knowledge, you can pretty much rationalize and say, okay, somebody rational will not be doing this. Something must be going on. There is an underlying issue. And then you're able to move past that.
So true. Thank you. Dr. Aluya, you have your hand raised.
Yes.
Yes.
Again, you really did hit it on the head. There are genetic modifications that are inbuilt that individuals inherit even from their parents. We've talked about slavery as an inheritable, the outcomes of slavery as an
We don't see
inheritable.
you. We love to see you, Dr.
No,
Aluya.
I know. I know. I just got into a place. You can see my face now.
Okay.
But that's how these things are. So we do, and that's why you find out that you have 2, 3 kids, same mom, same father, they grew up in the same home, and one is totally different, or two One is very quiet, while the others are very, exuberant, outgoing, and all that. Or you see one's just a trance. You understand? Again, these are things that um, that occur out of genetics because the inheritance they pass some genes to one another and stuff, and environment as well. Now we talk about epigenetics, where the environment which you live, your DNA is expressed in those manner. It doesn't change the DNA itself; it just changes the expression of that DNA, and that's what epigenetics is. Now, the chemical imbalance they talked about. Sometimes even the food that you eat, drinks, the whatever that you take, they like those who are in the medical field will know what they call acetylation or methylation. Those are chemical changes that take place in such that individuals become who they are. Now, one of the reasons why we're doing this is not just for us to hear it and see these fancy names and hear Dr. Kehinde speak all those great words. It's for us to use them, understand them, go back and probably research them so that we can imbibe them into our lives as well. So that it's easier for us to understand how we deal with one another and how we deal with our environment. And in common application, for instance, you're picking up a job, you see you're at the interview, even the people you are going to interview with, you see different personality types that show up. You all begin to understand them and know how to adjust and modify your behavior and your behavior in as much as modifying their behavior or how you react to that. Even down to your own children as well. To the boyfriends and girlfriends that your children bring home, to your spouse, to your daughter-in-law and son-in-law. All of those things are the reasons why we're having this kind of so that we would be able to when they come up, even in sickness and even in death as well. And that's why you find that some children, some people cry when there's something bad or catastrophic happens. Others are just stoic. And they're like, oh, this person must be wicked. No, it's just the way that person is. And not just that, disease itself can alter your personality type. We have habitus. They call it habitus in medicine. The sickle cell habitus. If you see a sickle cell person, there's a certain way they behave. Even the habitus of diabetic, the habitus of some who have chronic kidney disease, who's on dialysis. They all have different habitus and manner of behavior as well. These are things that are happening because, diseases are occurring and things are changing, So that's how we must view this. Now, the question is this. I've had some people, especially the younger people generation, they talk about horoscope. And if you look at somebody's horoscope sometimes, and I've read a few of them, it will almost describe the person and the personality type. And some people really do believe in these things. And is it real? Or some people over time have taken the same time, go through these as people behave, and have tied it onto the stars and the moon and how these constellations behave and how they act. Because as you and I know, the moon determines our weather, right? And when it's about to rain, those who have arthritis, they'll tell you it's going to rain tomorrow. They'll tell you because they already begin to feel it. There are magnetic and electromagnetic impulses and charges that take place at certain times that people feel and know. So my question is this. To you, what's the relationship between horoscope and personality disorders? Are they congruent or are they divergent? What's your thought?
I think it's divergent and congruent at the same because sometimes it flows together. You can really see that it's happening for me. For example, people that have bipolar disorder, they know how it feels when it's about to rain. They know how it feels when it's the springs. They just know they're about to go into that episode. So I think it's both ways. The only thing is we don't have a good data to solidify and back this up. But yes, Like you gave me an example right now of people with arthritis, people with, like maybe rheumatoid or people with osteoarthritis especially. They know, of course, rheumatoid is that one is caused by the immune system, but the osteoarthritis, they know when it's about. Similar, this also happens. What is the data to back that up, though? That is the only thing I don't have. But yes, I believe when patient says that, when they say that, they're feeling it, you better believe it too. And the rain, or it's about to, or the thunder is about to strike or something, you better believe it. That's all. But I will look into that data if there is anything. But the horoscope part, I can't really say. Does anybody have anything with that? Because I don't have a data to back that up. But I believe when people say, because they're the one feeling it. Anyone strong with astrology here?
I don't believe in it. Period. That's me.
You don't?
I don't.
I guess that's the thing. It's about individual interest. When what about when a patient tells you that it's influencing them in some way, and they are feeling it, and they are connecting it with diagnosis, you will just do your own workup, mentally, probably.
Yeah.
Is that what you're gonna do?
You
know that there is evidence, because we don't have evidence. Because we work on it.
I do believe.
Sorry?
I have studied astrology quite extensively.
This is, by the way, this is Dr. Daniel Akintonde. He's I joke a lot because he has, I don't know how many PhDs he has. He just keeps piling them up. So go ahead.
Yeah. I'm a statistician by training. And if you look at the world, you will see that human behavior is more statistical than mathematical. Most things are not clear-cut black or white. Even the weather forecast, if they say there will be rain tomorrow, they will give you the likelihood. So having said that, let me tell you what I have done, experimentally with astrology. I will call it horoscope for the layman. But essentially, it has a scientific, or it's a pseudoscience. It's not 100% science, because human behavior is not 100% science, because we have a mind and we can pretend, and at times we can adapt or adjust our attitude if we think that there is something to gain by so doing. We are not the most honest of animals. Anyway, having said that, I have, with other astrologers, let me say, with other people who are enthusiastic with horoscope, I have compiled a list of people that I know pretty well, like 100 people who I know their birthday and their horoscope. The horoscope itself is the placement of the sun when the person is born. It tells you a lot about that person, because you see, we respond to the moon's gravitational field, because the moon, if you look at, for example, next week, we're going to have a solar eclipse, and it's going to affect people in some ways, some people more than the others. We also have lunar eclipse. When we have lunar eclipse, or especially if it's a full moon, if you observe the news, lunar, that is where the word lunatic comes from. Around full moon, especially when we have lunar eclipse, rate of accidents on the roads, they go up significantly more than otherwise. So even if you don't know how to explain what's going on, but you can see that there is a slight correlation, So I have done some experiments in which people that I know pretty well have in the 12 horoscope categories. And I've noticed that if you know also their moon placement is the position of the moon when they were born. It's not just the sun. If you know where the moon is, I found most people who are soulmates, who get along so naturally, who are friends almost for life, are the people whose moon interchange. One's moon is in Scorpio, the other person's sun is in Scorpio. Where the sun and moon, they are, they are in the same house. I've done that extensively, and I've seen that you cannot totally discard it as myth or superstition. What you need to do individually is to carry out your own experiments and see if there's some truth to it. Because as I say, it's not a science that you can prove in the laboratory. But statistically, there is some evidence that personalities, if you look at this great scientist, Carl Jung, who has heard of that name before? Carl Jung.
Mm-hmm.
We've heard of Carl Jung before. He is a psychiatrist, and he has done plenty of work with
who is psychoanalyst.
Yes. A brilliant mind of that level alludes thoroughly to personality types due to horoscopic placement. And it's not the only one who thinks like that. There are many, many, many more scientists who have that view. So without taking too much of your time, I will say the only way you can verify it is to experiment. Take a basic book in the zodiac. I'm not relying so much on the daily horoscope that tells you this way you win the lottery tomorrow. I don't know about that one. But it is true that as the planets are moving and they are changing positions, the position where we were born, we are somehow connected to it, and the different configurations affect our mood, our behavior. It's not set in stone, but it has a high likelihood. And the only way you can confirm or reject the hypothesis is by performing your own personal experiment. I have done that experiment as a statistician. I've taken large sample, people that I know very well. And I'm of the opinion that even though it's not a mathematical science, it's a statistical science, and you can gain a lot from it, especially in relationships. You can use it to predict people's response to different, stimulus. Let me shut up there.
I told you he has PhDs accumulated for educating us. I learned a lot from what you said, because for me, horoscope is spiritual evil. It's how I saw it.
I've never dived into it too.
I've never.
One person I know pretty well is Dr. O. And I can tell you, right from the time I met her, I had an idea of what her horoscope might be. And she has never deviated. She's one person that is not very easy to describe, because she can operate at different wavelengths. Dr. O is one of the most empathetic person I've come across. You go to him crying with your problem. You go to her crying with your problem. You leave her smiling with the assurance of solution. I've seen her, go out of her way to help a total stranger to solve, a traumatic problem. And I've also seen her when she's not happy. Her temper, in my opinion, can be like an earthquake. So, and that is typical of Scorpios. Doctor, are you not a Scorpio?
That's what you guys say.
You know what?
Anyway,
you got that right.
Anyway, I'm going to shut up there.
She fights hard. Yeah, you got it right. We love her so much.
Madam VP. My Madam CEO.
But that's enough. Don't talk about her. Only I can talk about her, okay?
Thank you. So you heard that. Dr. Kitonde, no more about me. Thank you so much for enlightening us. And, seriously, I learned something tonight, because I have thought about horoscope as something evil, don't touch it. And, bringing the scientific perspective is very helpful. So I have hands raised, and I thought I had, which one was first? And okay, Dr. Izugu, kindly unmute that. You're next. Then it will be Tokwe and then Dr. Veronica.
Dr. Kehinde, thank you so much for your presentation. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
We all have some personalities. I wanted to ask more of a general question. Of those personality, groups, how does religion impact them, and how does intoxicants, whatever that is, impact those personalities? Which ones does it subdue? Which ones does it aggravate? So at least when we're dealing with them, we can know when to say, no, this is not acceptable, or this is part of you being a human being, as how the moon impacts you, or something like that.
All right. So, yeah. So it does have, so you mentioned two things, intoxication and religion. Okay.
Yes.
So now we're going to focus first of all on the 10 types, right? So we have the ones that are like pretty much emotion, like I would say, maybe let's start with Myers-Briggs, like introverted, extroverted. The ones that are logical are more on the religious side. Maybe we can take another question. I will bring a content to present this because this is extreme. This is one aspect I actually had tabulated already, but I didn't bring it up. So which personality type is most likely going to be religious? Which personality type is most likely going to be an addict? It's not difficult to figure out. So we can take another question and I'll bring the contents to better visualize it, if that's
Beautiful.
okay.
Beautiful.
But that's a brilliant, yeah. Okay, does anybody have any question, or you want me to just bring up the table? I don't want to waste time.
Well,
sorry, Mr. Tokwe Adeyanju, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Good evening, Dr. Elisha Kehinde. Appreciate everything you've shared thus far, and also for those who've contributed to the discussion in various ways. To piggyback on the question Dr. Aluya as well as Dr. Akintunde, contributed moments ago, I had the good fortune of, hearing Professor Wande Abimbola, also known as the Wishe Agbaye, he's a Babalawo, so to speak. And he had mentioned something about Ewo. Ewo in Yoruba is what would translate to English as taboo. Something you're forbidden from either consuming or, partaking in, you name it. Just similar to how Samson was told not to cut his locks or eat, honey from a dead carcass. I don't know who goes around eating honey from dead carcasses, but, it's a taboo nonetheless. So what I was curious, to know is if you've done any study or if there's any sort of correlation that you can make between that that practice, that aspect of our culture, as Yorubas. I know not everyone on the call is Yoruba, but I'll be curious to know if you see any validity in how traditionally, our people are able to identify certain taboos, for individuals to stay clear from, in order to live or lead a meaningful and purposeful, or some life where they're not going to harm themselves, or some sort of harm would not come to them. Because I look around, today, and I see people carrying on not knowing that they have an allergy to this or allergy to that. But if there's a system where we are able to tell these things and we're not really taking a closer look at the validity of it, maybe we might be changing ourselves. But I'd like for you to be able to speak to that, Dr. Elisha, if you don't mind. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And
so your question,
by the way, Dr. Elisha, before you answer, Mr. Tokwe Adeyanju is our commissioner is one of our commissioners in the state of Maryland. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. And thanks for that amazing question too. I think it's pretty brilliant. Personally, I am one of those people that don't connect voodoo with most things in life. So when we have to talk about spirituality, though. The only one I can say is mostly connected is going to be the schizotypal. That's the only one I can point to. The other ones, I think, is still mostly environmental, or if it's not environmental, it's chemical imbalance. If it's not chemical imbalance, it's upbringing, the way people were raised. Maybe you were raised by someone that is very, very strict person, or maybe you were raised by someone that is very laid back. They all play a role in how we develop. So when it comes to the voodoo aspect of things, honestly, I have never looked into the voodoo. However, I know that this is common with the Asians and the Caribbean. So is anybody around those areas that would love to, that can connect with that? Because that is technically is not irrelevant to talk about, because that's technically being culturally sensitive too. In some cultures, they have that attachment to certain personalities, but not that I know of, according to the research. But you're right. It's an area that we don't really dive into. We push it to the side, but who knows? It may have a correlation, but I would need to look into that. Does anybody have any comment on that? Is anybody familiar with voodoos and beliefs?
Yes. Thank you. I don't remember the name of the questionnaire, but please forgive me if I don't get your name. I know Professor Wande Abimbola. He was my vice chancellor when I was at the University of Ife.
Oh.
Before it became Obafemi Awolowo University. It's Babalawo. The way I interacted with him is I wish you are right. He used to come to Maryland when we did Yoruba, Egbeomo Yoruba. Now, he wrote a book called Ese Ifa. That is the Ifa cosmology. In Africa, let me say in Nigeria, apart from Christianity, there are two other main religions. There's the Islam and the traditional religion, or Ifa. All of them, including Christianity, you will see the number 12 is common. It occurs in all the books. For example, the Ese-Ifa, the Okoro, the Ejiogbe, the Tantagba, all the various Ifa verses, they are divided into 12 exactly, and each 12 maps to a zodiac sign. It's either a Leo, Aries, Sagittarius, Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio, Aquarius, Libra, Gemini, Virgo, Taurus, Capricorn. They all map to it. The same thing in Christianity, you see all these 12 tribes of Israel, 12 disciples of the Lord, the 12 stones at the breastplate of the priest. People, if you study Hebrew Bible, you will see that they also map to the 12 signs of the zodiac. The same thing in geomancy. You see, Babalawo uses Ese-Ifa, and it boils down to the 12 zodiac signs. In Christianity, people have said that all those names in the Bible, where they are 12, that is the coded message of astrology, actually. That Jesus is the sun, at the center of the zodiac sign, and the 12 planets go around the 12 disciples. Anyway, also in the Afa, in the Islam, they do divination through geomancy. Geomancy is casting knots on sand. That is from geo. Again, there are 12 symbols, and each symbol maps to a zodiac sign. What you can conclude from this is that all the three divinatory systems, whether the one used by the high priest in the Bible, 12 stones that map to 12 zodiac signs, or the 12 categories of Ese-Ifa that Babalawo uses, or the 12 symbols of geomancy that the Baba Alafa of Islam uses, they all concur. They all map essentially to the same thing of the zodiac sign. The only way you will not know is if you are raised the way I was raised, to look at any other religion as voodoo, as, or anything that tells you can divine and know to the future as evil, which I was raised into that. It took me a big struggle to be able to shake myself loose and be open-minded. I'm still a Christian, but I'm aware that a lot of things in scripture are coded. And those who understand scripture best, they tell us that everything, whether it's Islam or Christianity or Ifa, they all converge to the same fact that we are ruled by astrology. That's why the 7 days of the week, look at the 7 days of the week. Sunday is the day of the sun, is a planet. Monday is the day of the moon. Tuesday in Spanish is in French is mardi, which is the day of planet Mars. Wednesday, miércoles in Spanish, miércoles, Mercury. Thursday is jueves, Jupiter. Friday is viernes or Venus, the day of Venus. And Saturday is the day of planet Saturn. How can we be living in a world that even the 7 days of the week are named after the 7 planets and then say that horoscope astrology is nonsense? I will leave it there.
We said together.
That's deep. I mean, it was opening my mind to other things. You know what I'm saying? Like,
thank you. Knowledge is power.
Yep.
Thank you, Dr. Akitonde. Much appreciated. Wow. Deep. Dr. Veronica. Whew. Kindly unmute. Dr. V. That's our chair in California. There you go.
Yeah,
So yes.
So hi, thank you, Dr. Oh, this is quite a. I think you're going to need a second part because there's so much. People are silent because there's a lot. I think people are kind of processing. Thank you, Dr. Elisha, Dr. Akitonde, Dr. Aluya, and Dr. O for all the comments. They are kind of bringing it all together. And I just want to join Dr. Madam CEO to say, me too, I can talk about you. Only she and I. But and back to my real question, Dr. Elisha, I can imagine the chaos that would happen in a department when you do conduct personality traits. Everybody, that's DNJO, that's ESC, you know. So how do you handle that when you, because, and then talk about, if you can, talk about the usefulness of conducting this. What do you do with the data, with your staff? Is there a training that ensues? How do you handle everybody not being labeled by their letters and say that's the witch of the north coming now, blah, blah, blah? I can imagine everybody who have become labeled. And as well, people, like they said about Dr. O, people kind of shift depending on what, and I don't know if Dr. Akitonde will talk about that. There's shifts. So people are malleable and you cannot just be ESTJ forever. So could you speak to that? And most important, when you use this, how can it be useful to your team? And how do you handle people not walking around and permanently labeling each other? Thank you.
Excellent. So this is how to use this in a team. You're welcome. Thanks so much for that amazing question. Now, this one I'm feeling good because I can answer this one. So this is how it's used in a team. Okay, at least in a team that I've seen before. For example, we have a group of 2 new people that are coming to work, or even before you put them on board. There are some personalities that you don't want to put together. You'll be able to determine it with this because you're going to create a chaotic environment. You don't want to put you don't want 90 of them to be emotionally reactive people. You don't want 20 of them to be just logical people. We want creativity too, right? So we want a mix. That is how to use it first of all. So a lot of people that want to bring people on board, they use it for their onboarding. I personally do it. People don't know. I just ask some questions from MBTI. They don't know it. But I'm actually taking notes and I'm coming up with the type who they are. Then I can determine if I can work with the person or we're going to be having some serious battle. So I will know to drop them right there. So now, if you want to use it on a nursing unit, you got to make it focused. You don't go too deep. You don't go too deep as in what is their strength, what is their weakness. You don't go as deep as that. You focus, keep it professional. For example, which type of personality can you look at the positive side of things? Let me say, let me say ESTJ or something. What can they handle? What task can they handle the best? And then we have the list of those tasks. And then we can use it positively like that. You will just not dive too deep like I am right now. That is the way to use it indirectly. See, you can use it for anything. Now, by the time you start going into relationships as to people that are creating chaos, people that are creating problems, now that will be a problem. That way I see that being a problem, because now if any argument happens, now they're blaming that person, which would not be right, you know. And that could have been caused by another personality type too. But then in order not to focus on their weakness, you don't talk about it. You don't touch that side. Now, when you focus on weakness, you will focus it on profession. You will keep it professional. For example, on a nursing unit, you want to see which nurse like to be in charge. You will use it for that. Does it make sense? And I have content on that too. Which nurse don't like to be in charge? Which nurse like to go back and forth? You can use MBTI to determine that. Does it make sense? You will not get to the personality disorders level. You will stop right on MBTI. That is the way to use it.
So you're talking about strength-based
you have to. That's the only way you will get through. Otherwise, it can really become a problem.
Do you find bipolars when you're doing this? And how do you handle bipolar?
So bipolar will be a psychopathology. Bipolar, I have also linked it. I've also done extensive research. I've linked it also to certain traits. Certain types of personality disorders can actually have bipolar. Yes, I do have that content too. It's just not the content for today. Trust me, I spent hours on this thing. I have connected it with every facet of lives. Which personality disorder will most likely have anxiety? Which personality disorder will most likely have bipolar? Which one will most likely have even autism? Which personality type will most likely have Tourette? Like I have linked it with every personality disorder that I teach, because I teach it too. So I kind of like bring it into class as fun activity sometimes. And I bring it in positively too, like, hey, this is why we must forgive some people. Maybe they have autism, undiagnosed. So I technically diagnose adults. Let me say, that's the truth. So my adults right now, they are going through challenges and they don't know why they were. Some people just got diagnosed with ADHD, for example, at 54, 55, 56. I'm just saying, I'm not releasing any information, but just within my group. And they go get tested and it's true. Does it make sense now? So I would not give them the but I would tell them you are likely going through this. Go check yourself out. And they check it out. And from then on, they know their problem and now they feel better about themselves because they know the way forward. So you can use it positively, just keep it at MBTI. Don't go through the personality. Because now we need a medical professional to get to that level. So what I'm saying now, so in fact, you will be crossing the line on a regular unit to do that, unless you're a psychiatrist or you're a mental health nurse practitioner.
Thank you, Dr. Elisha.
And
do I have time for one more quick one?
Sure.
One more.
Yes.
Temperament and these measurement of personalities. Can you tell us a little bit about what's the temperament and what's personality, and how does that commingle for using at work? I'm thinking more of work and all that. Yeah.
So every personality types do have temperament issue. It just depends on, some are just worse than others. So when it comes to temperament, it's not really a personality type. It is it's something that underlies a condition. It's not by itself. Does it make sense? The only types of personalities that we have that we diagnose with clinically is only 3 sets. Personality, cluster A, cluster B, and cluster C. Cluster A, that's where we have all this, the ones that I listed. I broke them down, but not into clusters. Those are the 10 personalities that I call atypical personalities or personality disorders. Those are the only ones that we clinically diagnose and treat with psychotherapy or even medications like SSRIs. It is that serious, yes. So people just don't have the control. Once they get the chemical balance, then they begin to act better. So temperament is not by itself. So if you see all this type of temperaments and you see all these type of personalities, don't get too attached to that. They are not evidence-based.
Thank you so much. I rest my.
Yeah, and Dr. V, I just wanted to say something before I quickly go to the hand raise. When people think about bipolar disorder, they tend to think about somebody who switches from, this behavior and then they flip to another. You don't know what they're doing this minute or the next, because they could be happy now, you are enjoying them, and then they flip. That is not bipolar disorder. Actually, way far from it. That has to do with personality.
Wow.
Bipolar disorder is a disorder that, makes people have depression. They can have deep, major depression that they can't do anything. They stay in the house. They have this sad mood, can't sleep, have eating issues, with losing weight or gaining weight, and all of that. And then that's when they're in the depressive state. The die is either it's between being depressed and being manic. When they're in the manic state, it is not craziness like we think in Nigeria. No, that's not the mania. When they manic, they may spend money they don't have, like max credit cards. They may sleep with anybody, have sex with anybody, and that's not their natural personality. They will stay up for nights on end, for days, a week, and they'll still be functioning, just going on, and stuff like that. That's in the manic state. So bipolar disorder is not, that flipping of personality traits.
Thank you.
And thanks so much, Dr. Ho. Do you mind if I had something quickly?
Please, go ahead.
I'm going to add something by sharing this slide, because this is something I love to teach, okay? So I didn't go deep into bipolar because I felt like you want me to integrate it with personality types. And yes, I do have that content too, where I have each MBTI and each personality types integrated with who is most likely going to get a bipolar disorder. So look, but bipolar disorder itself is broad. It's actually deep, like Dr. Ho just said. So we have types of 4 main types, okay? There is bipolar type 1, there is bipolar type 2, there is cyclothymia, and there is hypomania. So look, so if we want to take it one by one, and they all fall under bipolar, right? And it's just interesting because they are all different levels. So what I want to say here is, let me talk about the one that is functional and the ones that are fully dysfunctional. In clinical setting, when somebody gets to the manic phase, we consider it an emergency. Okay? When somebody is hypomanic, we consider it's our vital sign. We need to watch them before they slip into mania. So hypo means below. So it's below mania, right? So they are not there yet. So we have to keep them monitored before they slip up here. So look, somebody with hypomanic is actually a good person. They are the ones empty urine from room to room, like I always say in class. They are the ones checking your vital signs for you. They are the ones doing your work for you. So my point is they are very, very active. They want to get everything done. They are in that good state, okay? So they are not fully dysfunctional. So sometimes they can even do without treatment and they are okay because they can reverse back down and be at the euthymic state, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. And then we have minor depression, which is not popular, then major depression. So now look, when we have 2 phases of life, okay? Our life can either be up here or it can either be down here in the dump. The normal life, which nobody is ever on, is called the euthymic phase, which is not labeled here. The euthymic phase is a straight line. I don't know about you. Nobody's life is straight. So sometimes we all flow up, but as we're flowing up, we have the ability to pull ourselves back down to the what? To the euthymic state. So we are not bipolar. So for example, you get excited, you just got married, you just finished from school, you are excited, but you are not sitting here for 7 days. Now, if you get so excited and you're still clubbing and partying for 7 days, yeah, we need to check you out. Something is not right. But if you're excited for like 3 to 4 days and you are going up here and you're able to reverse yourself right back down without any therapy or medication, then that will be a normal behavior. So look, euthymic state, you find yourself back there, you are good. Sometimes some terrible things happen to us. We find ourselves in the dump. Life is full of what? Ups and downs. When we find ourselves down here, that is called a major depressive disorder. Look, if we are able to pull ourselves back up before we hit 14 days, exactly 2 weeks, okay? We don't have MDD. Now, if we hit 14 days and we are still sitting down here in the dump, still really sick, then you need help. We need to pull you back up, psychotherapeutically or pharmacotherapeutically. So that is when you need help. But sometimes you are depressed for some issue in your life. Maybe it's just for 7 to 10 days. Before you hit that 14-day mark, you're fine to get back to the midline. You don't have MDD. You see now? So now, what about this cyclothymia? It's a type of bipolar disorder to your life. It's just going in cycles up and down. So this is going to be very difficult to diagnose. As a matter of fact, we don't pick this up clinically because providers don't have that patience. You're looking bipolar, boom, they give you meds. You're looking depressed, they give you meds. But cyclothymia is ups and downs, and we just never make it to what? To the top. The depressive phase of the cyclothymia, look, they never make it down to the bottom. See? So they are flipping and flopping a lot. Now, bipolar 2 is very tricky because you might be walking with them right now. You might be dining with them right now. You might be living with them. You might be friends with them. You would never know it because they can still be functional to some extent. Does it make sense? It is not like bipolar type 1 that hits the manic phase. Does it make sense? Bipolar 2 does not hit the manic phase. Does it make sense? So bipolar 2, they are still semi-functional. The type of people that you will find in a pole dancing and people going to clubs and going naked on the street and crazy, that would be the bipolar type 1. Bipolar type 2, see, they're green, they fluctuate, they go deep down into depression. And then they're looking a little bit on the manic side, but then they don't get all the way to the top. So that makes them a little bit more manageable. I hope that helps.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much can you put the slides down, please?
Sure.
Helps me to be able to figure these hands that are raised. I wanted to mention that because usually when people think of bipolar disorder, they think it's personality that just flip-flops. Change per minute, just happy now and next minute, no, that's not bipolar disorder. So Mr. Washington, I think it was, Mr. Moses Washington, I will let you go. You had your hand raised before.
Yeah, I was going to comment on the whole.
Please, go ahead. Or you want to wait?
I mean, if you want me to wait, I can. But if you want me to, I mean, it's up to you.
Please, go ahead. You had your hand raised. You were next. So, I was looking for you.
That was interesting discussion when you were talking about the whole astrology and these horoscopes and possibly how they can tie into personality types and things like that. So it was interesting ideas that were being thrown. And let me pin this here. Let me see. Okay, so I don't know if anybody knows about the Fibonacci sequence. So Fibonacci, I think he was a mathematician. So he developed these sequences of numbers called the Fibonacci sequence, and it's actually shown to reoccur in nature. And even it's found not just in nature, but even like if you're a trader, we use the Fibonacci retracement levels to determine at which point the market is discounted to take a buy entry. Like it's almost like just in about everything. Even people that are creating logos, they use these ratios to determine what is called the perfect geometry. Like when you create a logo using those specifications, it just looks better than what your natural eye can create. You understand what I'm saying? Okay, so like why am I going into the Fibonacci sequence? Okay, so astrology and numerology are very tied together. I'm not deep into astrology, but my sister is. So like she would tell me things, and then she would be like, "Oh, you're a master number," and I'm like, "What?" She's like, "You're a master number." Or you don't know numerology, all these things. So it's like they go into this numerology stuff. So you can see that numbers is very tied to creation and even systems. Because this Fibonacci is not just talking about maybe shells, but also systems like trading. When you go into trading and investment, we have a tool called like the Fibonacci tool. We use it to determine accurate levels to take trade entries, like at the level the best discounted levels to take a buy entry. You know, when you take a buy, you don't just take a buy, you buy it when the price pulls back. But now it's like we use the Fibonacci sequence to determine at which pullback level, all right, is the most optimal to take an entry. And you find that when you use the tool, price is retracing to that level. Let me see here. Okay, let me just show. I don't know how much time I have here. Let me see here. Okay. So let me see if I can just pull this tool. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, let's say let's say for example here, right? Let me see. Is this the tool? Let me see. No, this is not there. I want to show you what I'm talking about. What is this? Okay, this one.
What language is this in, by the way? Fibonacci. What language is it in?
This one?
All of this on the screen. What language is it?
Fibonacci is an Italian.
This is a trading view as a like investment stuff. But I wanted to show you this is a Fibonacci tool that I'm using now. Let me remove this stuff because traders use this to trade in the market. Because let's say, for example, now you have this swing low. All right, you have this swing low here, and you have this swing high here, right? So when you pull out the Fibonacci, this is a Fibonacci tool, all right? And so basically you'll be looking at these levels, these retracement levels, this one here, this is the 0.5. And then this one is kind of like around here is like the perfect, this is like the golden area here. So you can see when I pulled out this tool and I put it on the swing high to the swing low, you can see that it was matching. You can see. So like a trader would watch for like this golden area here, and they will look for some confirmation too. So like this confirmation would come maybe like you see this this engulfing candle here. So a trader that would be using this fib tool will say, okay, price retraced back to this golden ratio and then gave me a reversal signal. So I'm taking a buy here. Do you understand what I'm saying? So we use this even in trading and investment. It's not even just so now. Okay, when we go to the spiritual aspect, okay, because I'm also a Christian. God is very he cares about numbers. It's to the extent that on the seventh day he blessed the seventh day. He put a blessing on the seventh day. He put a blessing on number 7. And if you go through our scripture, you will see when the walls of Jericho fell, he was like march around the 7 times. And then he was like, I think it was like 7 trumpets or something like that. And then he was like march around the 7 times and then blow the trumpet. I think it was 7 times, but he was focusing on number 7. So if you go through our scripture, even was it the year of Jubilee? I think it has something to do with 7 too. So like you will see that God is very, very he cares a lot about numbers. A lot of numbers in scripture repeat over and over, like 5, the number of grace, so many things like that. And it's even crazy because the people who you think should have known when Christ would be born, they were the ones that actually missed him. And it was the people that were actually looking at the stars, the Magi. Mm-hmm. The ones that knew when Jesus was to be born were the ones that were the astrologers. They were the ones that was looking at the stars. They were like, hold up, this star is telling us that somebody's going to be born here. It was actually the guys that were in astrology, all this numerology stuff. They knew exactly when this Christ was supposed to be born. And the people that were so religious, they even missed him. They crucified the guy. Can you imagine? They were that accurate. The people that were looking at these stars, the numerology, they were so accurate, even more than the believers, the ones that had the law and they were caring about all these rules and all these things. The ones that were caring about the rules actually killed their own savior. Okay, that's just another thing. So I'm just kind of piggybacking. So because of the fact that I was showing the Fibonacci and all these type of things, and the fact that you see it occurring in just organisms and human systems. So there has to be a role because this whole astrology is very number based. The numerology stuff. I think somebody else was commenting. They was talking about the planet is 12. And even I think the moon determines the cycles of the month, all these type of things. So because it's number based, I believe it does have it ties in with personality and things like that. I think there definitely should be a correlation to an extent. So we cannot totally discredit it as absolute nonsense. This is my 2 cents.
I'm not gonna lie, you got me thinking. The people who actually they probably were not the first. I don't know, well, the first that was recorded that knew that the Savior had been born. Actually, yeah, were even led to where to go by the stars.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing this. This is new knowledge. I didn't know anything about Fibonacci, but my honorable commissioner had shared with me how to go research more, and I will definitely do that. Thank you so much for sharing that depth with us. Thank you. Auntie Tawa, kindly unmute, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening, Dr. Elisha. Thank you for the information and knowledge that is impacted on us. Thank you. I just want to ask you, many people have multiple personalities, but there are people that have many personalities. And this kind of people, they don't want to be helped. You see that they are in denial, that they, oh no, I'm okay, I'm fine. They don't want to be helped. Even if anybody wants to help them, they don't want to be helped. They want to carry on their personality. They want to carry on what they are doing to other people and hurting them. And how can you, and you know, some of this personality, they overlap. How do you treat these kind of people? How do you help them?
So honestly, a lot of times we have, like I said, we have treatments, mainly therapy. But again, if they don't even recognize and know what they have, honestly, it's very hard to help. But I would say, first of all, what is the official name for the question you just asked right now? We technically call it dissociative identity disorder. Okay. It is what we used to call it was multiple personality disorder. So a lot of patience, a lot of understanding is needed to really get these people through. So you yourself, if you know someone like this, the very first step to take is educate yourself. What is DID? What is dissociative identity? What does it mean? How do I recognize it? Am I correct that I am saying this person has having DID? Or do I need to check myself? Just generally speaking. That is what happens to us when we look at personality disorders and relationships. We also look at ourselves. In fact, the person that came up with the treatment for borderline personality disorder is any of my students in class. I just forgot about her name. What's her name? The lady that came up with the personality disorder treatment for borderline. Marsha Liner. She's on YouTube, okay? So she diagnosed herself. Do you know how? A patient came, they presented a case to her, and she was like, this sounds like me. And that's how she was able to figure out herself. So my point is, we need to ensure that we are digging deep into our own selves so that we can reflect better in a non-judgmental way. So now, after doing all that, you concluded that someone have DID, which is again, same as multiple personality disorder, but according to the new DSM-5 TR that was released just last year, of course, initial edition was 2013. It is now called dissociative identity disorder. I'm reinforcing it just in case you want to read more about it. Because if I have to go into it right now, it's a different whole subject. So, and then you want to make sure you create a safe environment. Once you establish that they, in fact, have a DID, they need support, really. Like I always say, anyone that will recognize that they have these things, we need to get to a point that we're going to start empathizing with them, just like we will with a stroke patient, just like we will with a cardiac patient. Does it make sense? If we see it, we recognize it, we need to really start empathizing. But because it's behavioral related, that's not the first thing that crosses our mind. And because we are human too, that's not the first thing. Empathy is not the first thing that crosses our mind. So that's one thing. You want to also validate their experience. You want to, connect with them, be on their level and say, hey, you know what? I recognize you're going through this. Anything they say, don't start dismissing it. Don't be judgmental. Don't criticize, which again is nature for us as humans. We would technically do that. We probably would do that. We need to also encourage some kind of communication, and that will also come with you building a therapeutic alliance with them. And then we have to, of course, be very patient and understanding. And most importantly, once you can connect with them, you're able to build a therapeutic alliance with them. Hopefully, you can tell them to go for therapy, because ultimately, that's what's going to help them. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Tokwe, hold on one second. I hate for anyone to be left behind. Brother Moses Washington, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I have somebody asking that they're struggling to see the point here. In few sentences, can you tell us the connection of Fibonacci to the astrology and the conversation, what you're trying to depict? I see some other people, writing the numbers.
1 second.
3 days,
2 seconds.
7 days, etc., fasting and all of that. But please tell us in a nutshell the connection.
About to do that, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay. Let me pin this. Okay, so okay. Fibonacci, okay, is really
Yeah, it's showing the screen right now.
Yeah, it's sequence of numbers that was developed by a mathematician that is shown to occur within how organisms look like. So you can find them in patterns that repeat within organisms, and not just from organisms, but systems. People that design logos, they use the Fibonacci ratios to determine how they should draw certain patterns and things like that, and they kind of like come up with something called a perfect geometry. So it's dealing with numbers essentially. All right, and the relationship between these numbers and, you can say, life. Okay, organisms and systems. Okay, now we talk about astrology. Okay, we talk about what is the horoscopes?
Horoscopes, yeah.
Okay, and what we were saying essentially is, okay, what is the connection between this and personality types? Correct?
Yes.
Okay. So we're saying, what is the connection between astrology, horoscope, and personality type? Okay, then I was making the connection, and I was saying that, okay, these astrology people, horoscope people, they heavily rely on numbers. Okay, they heavily rely on numbers. Even the other gentleman was talking about 12 planets, talking about even in religion, 12 tribes. He was going with numbers. Even if we say the moon regulating the start of the months, the new months. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it's tied with numbers, cycles. Do you understand what I'm saying? So because astrology, anybody, my sister, she's into this astrology stuff. She's like, oh, you're this. She's telling me, oh, I'm a master number. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm a master number. She's like, no, you're a master number. I'm like, what? So these guys that are into this astrology, horoscope stuff, they're into numbers, numerology. They're into numerology, how numbers can be used to have like predictive outcomes, foretell information that's to come. You understand? Okay, so now, so the idea is that within the astrology, the horoscope is the connection with the numbers, and I'm going with the Fibonacci, and I'm saying that this is something that is actually Fibonacci is being used now. Traders are using Fibonacci like crazy. If you go now on YouTube, type in trading currency pairs with Fibonacci, you're gonna see so many videos on YouTube. Just type it in now on YouTube search. This is not something that is being used now. Go and type in golden ratio used to create logo design on YouTube. They're using it now. This is not so. I'm not telling you a theory. I'm telling you what's happening right now. Do you understand what I'm saying? So these numbers is actually being used to explain life. Okay, it's used to explain life. Okay, so now, what that means now is this Fibonacci related to numbers, astrology, horoscope related to numbers. All right, and since these numbers in the Fibonacci can explain life, then if we make the connection from here to here, okay, and this life ties with this, and that's where the connection is.
Thank you so much. And the response is thank you. This is the connection now. Thank you so much.
Oh,
we
no
love
problem.
not to leave any stone untouched, and we all want to leave, having learned something and not be guessing. So thank you again for sharing. This is deep. Commissioner, kindly unmute.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. O. And I was thinking about this earlier this year. The 2024 marks the end of the United Nations Declaration for the decade for people of African descent worldwide. And unfortunately, many people were not aware that there was such a celebration going on since 2015. And within this time frame, particularly over the last 4 or 5 years, we had seen heightened occurrences of police brutality, not just here, in the US, against people of African descent. But even back on the continent, we did see what happened with EndSARS. And even prior to 2015, we did see, how some terrorists in the northern part of Nigeria, where many, of the people on the call today hail from, were kidnapped. So you think about something in economics called the invisible hand, right? Which supposedly supply and demand kind of find their way, through some mysterious way, prices are set based on supply and demand. But when you really think about the system, that is controlled by forces outside of our community as African people, you look at the education system, you look at, just about every system that, that we've bought into as a people, or maybe have been imposed on us, you start to think, that what's the common denominator here? Okay. And what I mean now is the level of oppression that many of our people are feeling worldwide, even though some people are able to cope with it through their religious belief and faith and, hope for a better day tomorrow. There's some people who are weighed down heavily by these forces, the systems, that tend to say, okay, you can't live here, or you can't have this, or you can't, you can't. And I started to make sense of it. Like, okay, is there an ICD code, International Classification for Diseases? That's what ICD means for those who are not medical. A lot of the doctors on the call, I'm sure you guys know what ICD means. And I said, I wonder if there's an ICD code for racism. And sure enough, I did find one. And I was wondering, Dr. Elisha Kehinde, have you ever found yourself needing to apply this ICD-10 code? And do you feel like maybe more people, and should be using this diagnosis to try and make sense of the ordeal, which some people are beleaguered with? Because sometimes people just wonder, why is it that I can't do this? Why can't I do that? I can't do this, and it causes a lot of stress. And you would see some people who can't cope, and they decide they want to take their life or harm themselves, or depend on some sort of substance to cope. So I would like to get your take on your awareness of this ICD-10 code. I'll post it to the chat, should in case you're not aware of it. But it will be something I would like for us to dialogue over if we have the time to do so today.
All right, thank you so much for that question. I think it's amazing. Maybe Dr. Ho can tell us more, but this is the little I know, and then she can chip into that. So, like you said, it's called the International Classification of Diseases. And of course, what do we use it for? We use it for medical billing. I don't see anybody billing for that. What I can see people billing for is maybe codes for something like problems related to social environment, or problems related to upbringing. Those are the codes I've kind of seen that relates to that. And that's as of, because the new update, it didn't come with a new update, maybe some old updates, maybe. So I'm not sure which year are you talking about? Because now I think we actually have ICD 11 too.
No, we have ICD-10.
We still have 10, right?
We use ICD-10 for coding. And, all that does is to, say what the diagnosis of the patient is when they came into the clinic. What did you diagnose them with? So that you can bill for your visit. There is ICD-10 code for racism. I just looked it up. I've never used it. I have not, I've seen patients who came in and told me to go to my, FF land, motherland Africa, and, stuff like that are racist. But it never even crossed my mind to give them the diagnosis of racism. I just see that they are maybe, ignorant, or have more to learn about where we are right now, that we are all humans. Doesn't matter what your color is. And I don't take it personally, so I never used it. But you're right. There is ICD-10 code for racism, but that's not something we can, use in real world or everyday activity. It's just for coding, for us to get paid for the service we provide in medical facilities.
And even if we use it, because it's not a medical condition, I don't know if it's more of a social issue, right? I don't think it's gonna be reimbursed, don't you think?
If what? If you use
I said it's more of a social issue too. Even if anyone does use it, like I've never really heard of it, to be honest. But even let me say you do use it, don't you really see it as more of a social issue rather than a medical condition? And then
Well,
maybe
yeah,
insurance will not cover
it is a social issue. And, I'm trying to think of, I'm sure there will be circumstances or situations where it will be appropriate to use. But with ICD-10 codes, we are allowed maximum of 4 codes per visit. So it's very rare for me to see a patient and it's only 1 code that I'm putting in the ICD-10 code to be billed. So racism may be one of it. There'll be others. Maybe they have diabetes. Maybe they have hypertension. Maybe they have asthma. And then racism may be one of it. And yeah, and so it wouldn't matter. What actually, that's to talk about the diagnosis. The next step is to talk about the level of visit. What level, how many minutes was spent with the patient. And that is another code, CPT code. That is what the insurances actually use to reimburse the visit. So this is not, the ICD-10 code is not something that makes any sense in real world for lay people who are not clinicians to use. Nurses don't use it, medical students can, it's only clinicians, physicians, nurse practitioners, physician assistants, period. Physical therapists, I'm sure they have their own codes. That will be ICD-10 codes to use. I think pharmacists may do too, people like that, but it's not something that is useful outside of that. It's for insurance purposes.
And with that said, I think now that we are aware that there is a code that exists, when you do have a patient that presents, with certain kinds of, let's say, physical, harm, and you know where the source of that harm is, do not hesitate to apply, the extra code if you can. That's just,
I think the first thing you would want to do is take shelter and forget the code at that moment.
That's right.
So the code won't matter at all.
You really won't see anybody using
unless
it.
you're alive. See, it's just a code. It's just for billing. I saw patients today, the ones that I didn't complete, I can complete it anytime and then send it in for billing. They just codes. So a patient who comes in and is going to present danger of any sort, please make sure you leave that premises and keep yourself safe. The code is not going to help then. Yeah. Did I answer your question?
Hello.
Partially, but I think what the realization I would like for those who are mindful of the fact that as a people on this planet, people of African heritage, as rich as we are, culturally, and so on and so forth, there are forces, that are depriving many, many, many people, millions and millions of people, of having an equitable, socio-economically speaking, depriving them from having an equitable standard of living, okay? And if we have enough people who are able to, because, policymakers say they always look for statistics to justify a shift in a policy. They're like, oh, show me the data, show me the data. So if there's a concerted effort to document some of the social wrongs and ills that our people are experiencing, okay, and if we can be done clinically, that's one strategy or outlet that I wouldn't like for it to be lost on us now that we do know that there is a code that can go into permanent records, and people who are running reports can actually say, oh, wait a second, there's a spike in this sort of reports, clinically reported across this population segment, and then we can start to move the needles and provide additional justification for certain policies to change. So just the mindfulness that I think I would like for us to have, more so than answer the question.
Okay, I get you. It's just that, again, okay, I guess what you're saying is somebody comes in and let me say this. most of our patients will not come in and behave in a racist fashion towards us because we're clinicians and they need help. Most won't. The ones who do that, they have personality disorder of some sort that we're talking about.
Dr. I want you to look at it like this, Dr. O. You have a patient that came in, right? Yeah. And perhaps this person was like you've seen many of the videos, right? Where there was a very horrible video where I saw a policeman slam an African-American woman, I think either on the ground or against the car, like viciously. Such a patient comes into your office, rather than just diagnose on broken bone and this and that, you could add that code because, you know.
Let me now explain this. I get what you're saying. If I add that, I'm saying that patient is racist. See, the code pertains to the diagnosis of that patient.
Correct.
So the patient experienced shoulder pain because they were slammed against, a police slammed them against a vehicle and all. So I'm going to say, one, they have shoulder pain. There's an ICD-10 code for that. I'm going to say the shoulder pain was due to a traumatic experience. ICD-10 code is not, I mean, it's thousands of codes at least, but it cannot cover everything. So it is what we have that we can use. If I put racism there, the code that I just found for racism, I'm saying that that woman is racist and she's not.
Okay, I see what you mean. I was looking at it from the perspective of the cause for the injury, more so than, okay, I see exactly what you mean. Okay then, thank you.
Well, I see what you're saying. That's what I was trying to explain, but I'm glad that, we got it now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. O and Dr. Kehinde.
And I know you, Mr. Data. And data,
yeah, I can tell. It's all about data. I could tell.
No, it is. And data is
about data.
The way of the future. We need to knock it and see how we can do this so that, things like this can be, brought to attention. But in the medical setting, we don't have it like that just yet.
Correct.
Maybe in the future.
Yeah.
Thank you. So Dr. Uduyebo said in the chat box that thanks for the exhaustive education on Myers-Briggs. What role, if any, does denial play in the acceptance of the MBTI labels?
Denial plays a major role. No one wants to accept it. It takes a lot for you to accept that, you're too clingy or you are unfriendly. It takes a lot. It's actually hurt you because we all have ego states. There are ego defense mechanisms. There are good egos and there are bad egos. So one of the bad ego, or one of the terrible ego to cope with, is called denial, and denial is one of them. So many people will apply that mechanism to reject it first. So yeah, that plays a real big role. So at the end of the day, it's all about the individual to accept and see, and not every personality will see it. That's why it's called a disorder too. We don't see it unless we choose to see it. And how do we really see it? I've told friends and colleagues and even students that if you really want to see who you are, ask your kid. Ask your kid. Kids will tell you the truth. Collect your data from them. How do you behave when I'm angry? How do I behave do I get angry a lot? Do I smile a lot? Am I too goofy? Get some data from them. Take your Myers-Briggs checks test with them. Let them know some things you don't want to be in terms with. And then we take it from Myers-Briggs to personality level, and then we can connect more from that.
Thank you. Welcome. So TAN TV, that's our, media personnel, said this is very interesting conversations. Could this be as a result of the gravitational pull on the body microsome?
That one is heavy duty. All right. I'm telling you, I love it.
I told you it's a media person. What do you expect?
Gravitational pull on the body's mind. You're taking it to DNA level.
Yes.
I've never connected it with, well, I can say it's maybe genetics, but I don't know about that gravitational pull. I can look more into that. Dr. Ho, you have too many smart people here for me tonight. Thank you for
Sorry.
being my backup. So you're gonna be my backup again.
Can I chime in real quick?
Yes, please. Okay,
Yes.
so yes, expatiate on that question. Thank you.
Yes, it's a pleasure joining you. I was invited here by the Honorable Commissioner, Mr. Tokwe.
Thank you.
It's also my first time joining the conversation, so it's a privilege.
So
I
welcome to
think
Medical Mondays with Dr.
yes,
O family. Now your
yes.
family. It's every week. The link is the same, is the topic that differs.
Thank you
And
very
I'm
much.
going to take this opportunity to say next week, we're going to have an unusual speaker. Please, it's one of our children. It's important that we all come on board and see what she has to say to us. So
Thank you.
go ahead, the floor is yours.
So a little bit about myself. So my name is Abolaji Omepogun. I am the COO of 10 TV, or a media platform that caters to the African and Black multicultural diaspora here in the United States. So a lot of our work really centers on different diaspora communities here in the United States. So that's just a bit about myself. As regards my question, I think I asked that question from I can't remember his name, Dr. Daniel
Akintonde.
Yes, when he talked about the horoscope and the gravitational pull of the moon on the earth. So this is a phenomenon that also happens real life in terms of gravitational pull on the planets. You have the tide, high tide, and the low tides. So given that explanation, I also thought it would probably make sense if those gravitational pull, of course, influences how the chromosomes in the body might also be affected in a way. So that's the question.
Yeah, so are you able to answer it, is what you're saying? That was
No,
what
I don't. I just thought to expatiate on the question. I have no answer.
Oh, okay. So how does gravitational pull affect personality, Dr. O?
You're muted, ma'am.
Oh, thank you. When you talk about gravitational pull, you're talking about the force of gravity, or do you mean something else?
Yes, force of gravity.
Okay, on personality, we have no correlation yet with personality and personality disorders, none. But with DNA, yes. Because you will see that, some families, they will say mental health run in the family. Yorubas, especially when their children want to get married, they usually would go send people to investigate the family. And what they're usually looking for is mental health issues. So one person may have depression, maybe the father has depression, or, a child may then have schizophrenia. Another child may have, anxiety disorder. It may not be the same thing, but they would have different mental health issues. We see that. So genes have a lot to do, but I've not seen anything on gravitational pull. I would check it out though. I'll research it to see. It's a great question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, but what I found just looking at it as we're talking was, again, there's no research about it.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. Sister Susie Garay Zesina.
Yes.
Don't think you can hide from me. Don't raise your hand if you don't want me to catch you. So you have the floor.
Maybe there isn't a scientifically proven correlation between the pull, the gravitational pull, and the mood. However, in psych, I have worked psych for the last 15 years. I work in a psychiatric urgent care, and what my correlationship to this might be stretched, but for example, the moon affects the tide. And it is like unspoken rule in psych units when it's a full moon, patients will get wild very fast. without a doubt.
Astrology. Okay.
It goes from 0 to 60, like it can get like really dangerous. They show all kinds of symptoms. We get all kind of emergencies. It gets interesting how when it's full moon, the patient do get act out.
You are right on the money. That is true. And I think that would have a lot to do with astrology also. And maybe even numbers. What do they call again? Fantocci syndrome. Oh my God. I just learned that. I should.
Fibonacci.
Fibonacci. No, it's not Fibonacci.
Fibonacci.
Fibonacci is Fibonacci.
Really?
Fibonacci sequence.
Fibonacci sequence. So the moon, it may have to, probably has to do with that, but not with the gravitational pull or the force of gravity. That is a force that pulls you down so that you're standing. If we don't have that force of gravity, we will not be able to stand up and, walk the way we do.
Maybe Dr. Daniel Akintunde might be able to chime in.
Yes.
Everybody's interested in. I love who are interested in zodiac signs.
Thank you,
Dr. Akintunde.
Albert Einstein, the popular physicist, he came up with the what they call the trinity of universal laws. One is the theory of gravitation, one is the theory of relativity, and one is the theory of electromagnetism. Now, anybody who has done electrocardiogram before, you will know that there are electric circuits and pulses in our system, especially in the brain. So there is electric activity going on in us. According to the trinity of universal laws, anything that comes under gravitation or relativity, any two of them will produce the third one. It's just like when you generate light from magnet and motion, electricity from magnet and motion. Any two of them will induce the third one. So if it is true that there are electric pulses in us and there is electricity going on in our brains, therefore that system comes under electromagnetism. And if it is true that we all have, every particle, no matter how little, has a mass, anything that has a mass is subject to gravitation. Therefore, I will say that since there is electrical activity going on in us, and the moon's tide is a pull. Can you see where I'm going with this? It makes sense that gravity plays a big role in human behavior because it impacts the electrical systems in us. And the moon's tide controls the intensity of magnetism or gravitation on Earth. As a result of that, during lunar eclipse or full moon eclipse, there are many types of crazy behaviors, accidents, crimes, misunderstandings, bad temper, all things like that. They go up around that time. And in this April, the 2 days to look for is April 8th and April, just add 14 days to April 8th. What do we get? Is it April 22? One is
April 24.
Yeah, one is a solar eclipse. One is a lunar eclipse. The lunar eclipse, that is when
April 24
comes from, and you will observe things that will happen. There will be crazy things. I've been monitoring this for years. Another thing you should know, today marks the beginning of what they call Mercury retrograde. The planet Mercury retrogrades 3 times or 4 times every year for a period of 3 weeks or 4 weeks. One starts today and it will last April 25. And during Mercury retrograde, people will have all kinds of change of minds, instability in their thinking, lateness to meetings, canceling meetings, forgetfulness, confusion, losing articles, losing information, electrical appliances not working properly, buying something today, and 2 days later, you feel like returning it, changing your mind. There is going to be chaos in the mind, and it's believed to be triggered by the gravitational pull of the moon on the planet Mercury, which is believed to control our thinking or our minds. So throughout this month, or between now and April 25, you can do the experiment and begin to see whether it's true. Now, people are changing their minds, canceling meetings, getting late to meetings, forgetting, getting angry unnecessarily, and electrical appliances malfunctioning, things like that. And also whether at the lunar eclipse, whether there are all kinds of crazy behavior. Even the person you thought you knew pretty well, your friend, suddenly they begin to behave in a kind of erratic way. Look at it. They say when things like that happen, look at the placement of the moon. Is it either a full moon, or worse still, is it a lunar eclipse, which is a lunar eclipse that occurs at a full moon? So, bottom line, gravitation pull, may definitely affect us and our behavior because we have electrical systems built into us. And the universal law of the Trinity universal laws of relativity, gravitation, and electromagnetism means that we are also subjected to gravitation. I shut up there.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that input. And, I believe it. So I guess that answers our question. I'm a scientist. And so he said, Dr. Elisha, just like Dr. Akintunde.
So
so we're always looking for research. God help us. That's a personality issue too. When you have to, because I did that personality test, I sent it to you. If I saw one of those questions there, you want to see that this thing is real. Scientifically, I'm like, that's my scientific mind. What can I do? But thank you so much. That's in depth, so much to learn, so much to know about things around us. I never thought, gravitational pull would have anything to do with personality. But, we are electrically charged. That much I know. And, I can see the connection. Thank you. So does that help to, shed light into things for all of us, I believe? I think Sister Susie would agree. Definitely. She agrees. She's happier. So, Sister Tinuade, kindly.
Yes, ma. Yes, ma. Now home. Yeah.
Praise God. Thank God for Johnny
Mercy.
Mercy.
Yeah. Yes. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Oh, I was just loving the lecture. Thank you so much. First off, let me say thank you, Dr. O, for encouraging me to saying that, oh, yeah, don't worry, just get on. And it's not just what it says, it's a lot more. And really, I enjoy this topic really a lot. Thank you, Dr. Kehinde Elisha. I learned a lot from you. And I think I'm going to take that test, but because I was driving, so I don't see I wasn't even looking out for the tab or something, the link. Now, Dr. Akintunde, I was just loving you all the way. And then the numericology, is it Fabu something? What is it called again?
Fibonacci.
Fibonacci. That's Mr. Washington. Thank you so much. My head was just going ding, 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 ding. I'm like, how can all these people know this much? Oh, gosh. Anyway, my thinking is, I'm thinking about a question and then to lead me into what I really wanted to say to Dr. Akintunde. I know that they said something about 14 days when somebody can repeat an habit for 14 days or 28 days, then
90 days.
Is it 90?
3 months.
Oh, no. You don't even know what I wanted to say, Dr. Ajagbe.
No, go
Is
ahead.
it,
I think it is.
yeah,
Go ahead.
14 or 28 days that if you are able to do something that is consistent for 14 days or 30 days, 28 days, that that is probably going to form part of your habit. So I don't know what that is. And I want you to please shed more light to that. Also, Dr. Akintunde, I would like you to come to Yoruba Day to tell us a lot more about all these horoscope, astrology and stuff, because of course I'm a Christian, I'm a Yoruba girl. I'm very curious about anything that has to do with Yoruba. Also, I'm Great Ife, so I was just loving you all the way. So that's what I want to say. Thank you.
We'll do
Should
that.
I respond?
He'll come. Don't worry. I'm accepting for him.
Should I respond, Dr. O?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Thank you. We all know that the word month, M-O-N-T-H, actually comes from the planet Moon, and that the Moon circles around the Sun in 28 days. And also that every 14 days, there is either a new moon or a full moon. Because if you have a full moon any day, if you have a new moon any day, 14 days later, we're going to have a full moon. And then 14 days after, which is
28 days.
Okay. You're muted.
Where are you?
He got muted.
Wait, no, it's not muted.
No, he came back now. He was muted.
It is believed that our body, look at a woman's menstrual cycle. It's also regulated by the moon, actually.
Wow.
Isn't it? It is. Approximately, right? It may fluctuate by
the
1 or 2 days.
cycle.
Yes, we have cycle.
The menstrual cycle. Yes.
You see, so our body is listening to the moon, and the moon is working with our body. That's why certain numbers about human behavior, like a woman's menstrual cycle, follows the moon's, motion, right? So now, every motion round a circle is 360 degrees.
Okay.
Now, the habit forming or habit breaking number of 14 days or 28 days is because by the time the moon covers 14 days, the necessary part of the human brain that governs behavior is captured. It will have captured all the necessary degrees. And it is to a statistically significant extent that any habit, anything you repeat consecutively for 14 days or 28 days is likely going to be registered in your subconscious because it's aligned with the moon's motion. And whether you believe it or not, the moon plays a big role in medicine, in our behavior, in human cycle. Even look at even the number of months in the year, right? The number of days in a month is actually 28 days plus minus. And that is the number of days it takes the moon to circle the sun. And that number is both mystical and also spiritual and also scientific.
Wow.
Yes.
And you can actually get that number from the Fibonacci sequence as well. The Fibonacci sequence is, by the way, I'm a mathematics undergrad. It takes the two numbers 0 and 1, starting with those two because in the beginning something didn't exist, that is 0. or then it exists, that is 1. If you take number 0 and 1, and you begin to form the next number by adding the 2 numbers before it. 0 and 1, if you add it, what do you get? You get 1. So 0, 1, 1, right?
Okay.
So take the last 2 numbers, 1, 1, you add it, you get 2. So the Fibonacci sequence is 0, 1, 1, 2. What is the next one? It will be 3. 1 plus 2, right?
Ben.
So the next one will be 5, right? And so on. If you form the ratio of any number to the right, divide by the number before it, you get what they call a golden ratio. How does the apple know that it must contain exactly 5 seeds? How does the soursop know that it must contain certain number of seeds that is actually in the Fibonacci sequence? If you count all the seeds, nothing less, nothing more. It's always exact. Back to what Moses Washington was saying.
Very deep. Thank you. The Oshu in Yoruba is actually Oshupa.
Oshupa, that's it.
Yes.
You got it.
The moon.
Anyway, I can go on and on,
Thank
but
you.
I want to start up here by just saying that the moon's motion and cycle and the time it takes to complete a cycle around the sun, 28 days, and or half a cycle, 14 days, they link directly into human physiology, like a woman's menstrual cycle and our habit forming. It is true to an extent. If you can do something repeatedly for 14 days, it's likely going to be part of you. If you can do it for 28 days, it's going to be like your second nature. I've tried it before in trying to break some habit or forming some habit. It worked for me. It worked for many, many people. Let me shut up. But if you have any Yoruba thing want to invite me to, I'll be more than happy to participate.
That's good. Thank you. We certainly want more at this level too, but I will get your contact so you can come to Yoruba Gbode. We speak Yoruba for people like us who can't speak English. So
she's a lawyer. I'm telling you, she's a lawyer. She said she can't speak English.
I know that.
I already accepted the invitation for you.
Okay, thank you.
She texted me, I texted her that don't worry, you are coming.
But
she's a lawyer, she speaks English. I will say it over and over again. So Brother Charles said in the chat box, our brother Charles Busari said, some Jewish sectors believe that there is a connection between women's menstrual cycles and moon cycles. It's still, so we get this. This is very interesting because, and he said it's called Rosh Chodesh. I hope I pronounced that well. And then there are some numbers that are put here by Bolaji Omitogun. I think it's 8 and 22, not 8 and 24, like I said. So it's April 8 and April 22nd that Dr. Kitonde said we should look out for. Thank you very much for Eclipse or whatever it is. So Dr. Moses Washington, you did not respond to my private chat. Please do that, but unmute and have the floor. Kindly unmute.
I'm looking for your private chat.
Talk first too.
I'm looking for your private chat. But what Dr. Daniel was saying is very intriguing. So I don't know, maybe there's people that maybe are of a Christian background, because there's something I wanted to point out just to tie in with what he was saying, just to give more perspective. You know what I mean? Just more depth. Let me see if I can. Let me see. Is this thing? Okay, I think let me pin. Where's my screen here? 1 second. Let me pin my screen. Okay. Let me pull this. Okay. All right. Can you guys see this? So this, I'm just adding a little bit because what he was saying is actually very, very, very interesting, and it just kind of tying into some things that I understand from a spiritual standpoint. And I'm just pointing out some things here just for some depth. So this is actually coming from those of you who are believers or Christians. So this is coming from the book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 13 to 15. And it says here, and the evening and the morning were the third day. So it's just kind of like talking about the creation process. And he was saying, and God said, let there be lights in the firmament. So this is when he was talking about the creative process, when God, those of us that are of a Christian background, he said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens. We're talking about the sun, the stars, the moon. All right. It says to divide the day from the night, and let them be. So now he's saying, okay, what these things are actually going to be determining. They're going to be for signs. Red moon, blood moon, all those things, blood moon, for seasons, for days, and for years. So he's also saying that these things are going to be determining these things, and let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. Okay, then there's a different place here where is talking about the greater light, which is the sun, to rule the day, and the lesser light to actually rule the night. So it's kind of like in the whole creation process, you find that God actually wanted these items in the heavens to actually play a big determining factor was what's actually happening on the earth. So it's actually, he actually wanted them to actually rule, rule events. I don't know if you're seeing this. So I'm just pointing this out. Some people that are of a Christian perspective, background, so this is actually there. Like, it's literally there. Like, God, when he was creating everything, he actually wanted these bodies of light to determine events on earth. Okay, that was another point I was trying to add.
Thank you. And that is scripture. That's in Genesis.
Yep.
I know that, and I believe that wholeheartedly. Thank you. In line with what you're saying and with what you have shared and those who have talked about numbers, Brother Charles Busari has been posting some things that I'm just seeing now that are really interesting. It was, I shared what he said about the Jewish belief about menstrual period correlating with the moon. He just wrote 21 days to form a new habit, originated from a book called Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. Do you know that we even teach that it is research-based, that to change your habit for people who eat too much, they eat large portions, they need to change their lifestyle. We actually educate that it would take about 3 weeks. That's 21 days to change your habit, to change that that stomach, to shrink your stomach or to expand it. Either way, in order to have lifestyle change. And so this is very interesting that this has been documented, and it's research also. Whew. Thank you. Wow. This is a whole load of information. There's still so much to learn. I don't know if everyone else feels the same way that I feel right now, that there's a lot of information that we're getting that we really need to maybe have another session on this. I don't know how we'll figure out how to do that, to actually, dig deeper and see how we can now utilize this for basic care, to see how we can use it to prevent things that are untoward, even like personality disorders, and to see how we can use it to strengthen things in our lives that we need to strengthen. Well, I think there's a lot we still need to talk about here. Mr. Washington, do you agree? Dr. Washington? Dr. Moses Washington.
Yeah, no, I mean, a lot of the stuff is very interesting, very insightful. Definitely, like I was saying before, this whole horoscope astrology is not some fluke by chance. You understand? So I definitely think that there's things that can be picked, to be applied.
I agree. And I can't help but laugh over this. Dr. Veronica said, Dr. Akitonde, very knowledgeable. Having presented this with the academic spin, gives it a positive perspective versus the voodoo image that we all are so used to. And she says Dr. Elisha has done well also. So I don't know. I don't think I missed any question yet, but I think I still have some things in here. Our sister in DC, you'll see in the chat box, if you're reading along with me, that says God's 24/7, says all things bright and beautiful, all creatures great and small, all things wise and wonderful, the Lord God.
made them all.
Yes, yes. And Brother Charles Busari says, basically, we believe that it takes 21 days to create a habit and 90 days
to make it part of your
part of your lifestyle. Go ahead. You can read it. Go ahead. You don't want to read anymore? Okay, read along with me then. After you complete the 90 days, the habit will be as much a part of your daily lifestyle. 21 days to create a habit and 90 days to make it part of your lifestyle. I think that's what Dr. Ajagbe was alluding to. I'm thinking that's what my sister Tinu wanted to say. But it does take 21 days to, create that habit. That's true. So, Dr. Kehinde has shared his email, and I hope everyone is happy. So, do we have any other questions, input? Wow.
There's a question we've not addressed.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, we're going to quickly address that right now. It's even more fun. Okay, so look.
Please.
The question was about who is likely to be intoxicated, and that's my specialty. I love it. And who is likely to be religious. All
Did
right.
I miss that question? Was it on the platform? I think it might have been privately chatted to you.
No, it was said on the platform, but I had to pass. I said I have content because I couldn't, because it was many personalities. I said I can't just answer it without pulling up my content.
I think it was private chatted to you. So go ahead.
It was actually
Dr. O, you didn't read my questions. So
then you're going to have to ask it, Dr. Jagwe, in a minute
it.
when she's done, please.
You want me to drop this down? Okay. All right. So now, so that person I asked, it was one of your constant attendees, actually. I just can't think of his name.
Yeah, that was me, Dr. Zogu. I asked that. So I was waiting for you to bring it up and answer the question. Yeah, that's good.
I didn't ignore you. Thank you.
No, that's good.
Thank you. So now he said, who is likely to be intoxicated? Who is likely to be religious? We're going to connect it to the personalities, right? And the other types too, the other MBTI types. And I've also brought in the zodiac sign because I'm beginning to find it relevant now, even though I don't have the research to back it up. I have integrated it to the lovers of the zodiac signs. So look, so now we have the paranoid personality. They will most likely seek relief from paranoia. So for everything, for you to know what somebody is about, you have to understand the personality disorders behind it. So what I mean, that will now help you explain the behavior. So for personalities of that person, first of all, what other psychopathology are they likely going to have? They're most likely going to have something we call the GAD, generalized anxiety disorder. They will most likely get seek relief from paranoia or attempting to cope with heightened anxiety, and therefore they may be at risk for substance abuse. And when it comes to really being religiosity, yes, they're going to be very religious because of perceived threats. So that makes sense, right? Look at the second one, the schizoid personality. Of course, I'm not talking about Myers-Briggs anymore. They have, because of the schizoid, they are less likely to seek intoxication or religious experiences due to their disinterest to start with social interaction. So when they start connecting with social spirituality, they will start making connections, right? But that's not their strength. So they don't want to do, so they will probably not going to be religious. And of course, what about they're probably not going to be intoxicated, sorry. And when it comes to religious, they seek solitude or spirituality in the absence of people too. They will do it alone. They don't want a crowd, they don't want too many people. Then what about schizotypal? And the three things right here, paranoid, schizoid, schizotypal, the three of them belong to cluster A personality disorder. I just didn't put the clusters here, just for more clarification. Then we have the schizotypal, right? Again, what does it mean? They are magical thinkers. So because of their traits, they will experiment with risk of experimenting with intoxicant due to the what? Unconventional thinking. Does it make sense? Because their mind is altered, so they will experiment with intoxicants. What about religious level? They may experience some or gravitate towards what non-traditional or mystical or magical. They are the ones that will probably gravitate towards maybe, palm readers and stuff. Okay. Now, the antisocial PD, of course, are you following with, you can be looking at the, Myers-Briggs here that you are all familiar with. That one, you don't have to be a professional to do it. You don't have to be a practitioner to do it or a medical doctor. But this very first column with the personality disorders, you must carry a license to put this on anybody, period. So I want us to recognize and acknowledge and respect that, please. Because people throw the word narcissism all over the place now. They abuse it, if anything. They throw borderline all over the place. They abuse those words, but they are not just words. They are true diagnoses. So now antisocial PD, so some of you, if you have taken the test, that's an ESTP, right? They are individuals with antisocial trait. They may engage again in substance abuse, of course, as a means of thrill seeking to facilitate impulsive behavior. Don't forget, they are the ones that will burgle into banks. As a matter of fact, this antisocial, this develops as an adult, as a kid. There is a kid, maybe like 6, 7, 8 years, 9, 10 years old. They have something we call ODD, oppositional defiant disorder. That is when they start showing the traits. That's when you should start twisting their mouth and get them to sit down and listen to you. Otherwise, they will turn into conduct. Now, conduct is what we now turn to antisocial PD, and eventually they will go from juvenile to real jail. And of course, that's what we see with alcoholism or whatever. Religion, sorry. They gain social advantage to manipulate others rather than genuine spiritual reasons. So when they go to church, just go to show off. Now, what about borderline? Same thing. They may seek refuge in religion as a source of stability, hope, because they are the ones that are emotionally reactive. So they want people to just be there for them. They want true support. They may use substance to cope. They are the ones that want to cut themselves for attention. That's the borderline personality disorder. They also have this ego defense mechanism called splitting. They will say this staff is bad today and they are good tomorrow, and so on and so forth. Now, what about and they tend to have something we call major depressive disorder, and they are taros too. Now, what about the histrionic personality disorder? Again, what can these ones have? Our favorite bipolar that we talk about. So somebody with histrionic will most likely suffer from bipolar disorder. And of course, what about substance use? Of course, they will use it to enhance social experiences or seeking attention. Don't forget, they are attention seekers. So even if they have to get drunk for everybody to focus on them, they will do it. If they have to wear a red underwear to a red carpet just to get attention, they will do it. So that's a lot of our celebrities, period. Okay. Now, this religious wise, they will be drawn to religious rituals as ceremonies as opportunities for attention or validation from other people. What about narcissistic personality disorders? Don't forget, those are cancers, right? And of course, they may use substance, of course, to maintain feelings of, I'm all that, to maintain feelings of superiority. And of course, these are our ENFJs. What else? So they can exploit religious beliefs or positions of authority. Again, they want to be on that. They want to just be there, like they want to be on top. They want to be noticed. They like not just the energy, the power that it brings them, the feeling like, yes, I'm all this, I'm all that. Avoidant. What about their spirituality? They tend to connect to overcome feelings of isolation, right? And finding acceptance in higher power. When it comes to using substance, they use it to cope too. So I think almost every personality disorder actually uses substance for one reason or the other. So I guess what really makes you a substance user will be the chronicity of it. So what I mean? That is why we have it like you drink 2 or 3 beers, we have different levels of alcoholism too. Alcohol use, alcohol abuse, and alcohol intoxication. So not everybody is a drunk. Does that make sense? And dependent, they also use substance. And when it comes to spirituality, they want to do it for support because they are dependent anyways. They will cling, they will go to church for reassurance. They want to go to pastors a lot. Hey, pray for me. Do you think I'll pass tomorrow? That kind of a thing. They depend on that. That is what, I'm sorry to say that. Okay, now obsessive compulsive personality disorder is not the same thing as obsessive compulsive disorder. Look, obsessive compulsive disorder, they are the one that are ego dystonic. They dislike being so obsessed and compulsed. So when we say obsessed, you're thinking about it. Compulsion is C for carry out. When you're actually doing it, then you are compulsive. They hate all those acts. Now, obsessive compulsive personality disorder, on the other hand, they believe that way is correct. That's the way life should be. They are the ones that will say cleanliness is next to godliness and so on and so forth. They believe that is the way to behave. They believe everybody should be that way. So when it comes to spirituality for people with OCPD, they find solace in religious rituals, period. That is ritualistic for them. And the worst thing is because they do that, they go to church like 5 times a day. They want you to go to church 5 times a day. That's the worst part. They don't see a problem with it. See what I'm saying? Now, when it comes to using substance temporarily, they may use it to escape rules. And that is all the personality. There's a lot more details, but I just focused on the last 2 columns to answer your question. And then we have other details that I researched for another time. Thank you.
Wow. So
thank you very much.
Wow. You're welcome. It's deep. It's deep. Honestly, it's deep. Like clinically, one can use this because I was able to connect with my real diagnosis.
Wow. Yeah, I have people saying on the platform that they figured out that they figured out their personality.
Amazing.
And yeah, and
it resonates.
Yes, they can resonate. And somebody actually said that, she identifies herself or he, I don't know if it's a he or she, and that they do their best to cope.
Amazing.
And to combat, the negativity in that personality. This has been fantastic. I have a question on
jot this down.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a question and it's evading me now, but Dr. Ajagbe said he asked questions. Dr. Ajagbe, I saw your post on how you use the Fantoshi, how you used it to create logo is what I saw. So you were sharing that and I responded to that. I didn't know that was a question. So if you please unmute and ask your question regarding that or the one I missed. I'm looking again, I didn't see it. That would be great.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Elisha. That's a very insightful and very educative presentation. Very illuminating. There are 2 questions I posted. The first one was, how do we prevent this tool from being used discriminatorily? So people can use it to discriminate against people. That is it may be an inadvertent use, However, there are people who will be excluded from participation in events based on discrimination. And they will justify it, the discriminatory person would justify it by saying, these are the personality traits and so on. So the question is, how do we prevent some kind of discriminatory practices in the use of this tool? That's question 1. Question 2 is, could you kind of discuss the relationship between personality traits and sleep disorders? Because there's a whole lot that can be elucidated from that connection. And then the other thing that I wanted to say is just a comment that unfortunately it is, even though we know it is nice to know all these personality traits, it is one thing to observe around us that people will, first of all, label others so that they cannot be labeled. So for instance, somebody calls you a mad person. They may be the raving mad individual, but because they've already labeled somebody first, they assume that nobody else would notice who they are. So you can see that that is going on. That is the reason why many of us don't want to do this kind of testing, because once we know objectively that this is this diagnosis, it is difficult to avoid being called that if it is known. But what I've observed is that a lot of people, they call people, crazy first so that they won't be noticed as being crazy. So those are the three things I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So that's a very, very awesome question. So I see here that mainly you're talking here about labeling people and
Yes.
stigmatization. And we try to destigmatize. Even throughout my talk tonight, I'm doing my best to destigmatize, as in check yourself first. Make sure you check yourself first. And I gave that Mashalana as an example. She diagnosed herself because she had a student patient relating the way she behaves to her. And then she figured out she had bipolar, and she discovered, and she created a treatment that is still being used today for bipolar disorder, which is, of course, dialectic behavioral therapy. So first we must check ourselves. Secondly, nobody should ever diagnose, call anybody borderline, call anybody paranoid, call anybody narcissistic, call anybody, schizo or schizotypical. Nobody, unless you're carrying a license. And I still cannot emphasize it enough, because many people on YouTube, it is ridiculous. Okay, everybody's a narcissist. And they don't have the knowledge to know that some personality traits actually temporarily look like narcissism, but they are actually not narcissists. But they don't have the knowledge. They don't, because I listen to YouTube and I'm like, this person, because you met him for 2 days and you are calling him a narcissist? No, he might have recruited narcissists because of your presence for that moment. He might not be a narcissist. You might have done something to make him act like one, or to make her act like one. That's another stereotype. We think it's only guys that are narcissists. We have women narcissists too. So I am a big, big advocate when it comes to somebody stereotyping somebody or throwing it on somebody. I used to be notorious for that. So I used to diagnose everybody on earth. Okay, you pass by me, you're getting diagnosed. But I had to, I had to wake up to that reality that this is not actually right. And like you said, in Africa too, unfortunately, all these personality disorders, and that's why I try to be gentle. I call it atypical behaviors or atypical personalities, just to be gentle. People see it as being crazy. It's going to be rude to call it crazy. We only have one crazy in the entire DSM. It is only schizophrenia. And that will be obvious to even a lay person. Schizophrenia means mad person, lunatic, somebody that is naked on the street with positive and negative symptoms. That is the person that we're supposed to call crazy. So it's actually ridiculous for anybody to call anybody crazy and capitalize on it. So now, when it comes to labeling, when it comes to the Myers MBTI, let me address that. That one, anyone that would do it, make sure you don't go as deep as I am. Strength, weakness, tailor it to a job. That's the best way you can escape that. Now, when we start looking deep into it and connecting it with real diagnosis, then I see it being stereotypical. I think by nature, we tend to stereotype people. So to all of us here today, if you're really interested in these tools, first of all, avoid labeling people, and you check yourself first. Know who you are. That is the best way to start. That way, you know you are not being judgmental to start with. So maybe you are the one with a problem. Maybe it's not even the person that has a problem. So you know yourself first, then that will resolve any kind of hidden issues. That will resolve any kind of biases. I hope I've answered all your questions so far. So biases will happen, stereotype will happen, but honestly, it is still individual. It's still based on individuals. But again, we must not touch the real diagnosis.
Yes.
We must not touch
So
it.
the third thing is the sleep pattern.
Now, the sleep pattern too, that was based on psychopathology. Again, that have to be medically done. So because I know I carry the license to do that, I can tell you right now, somebody with paranoid personality disorder, we have a lot of sleep issues. Because think about it. All the psychopathology, they're also connected with real DSM-5 diagnosis, right? So look, we have 7 main neurotransmitters in the brain: acetylcholine, dopamine, norepinephrine, gamma-aminobutyric acid, glutamate, opioid neuropeptides, and so on and so forth. So the key ones that is responsible for anxiety is GABA. Okay, we also have serotonin too. Both of them can be dysregulated in somebody with what? Sleep issues. So now the next thing will now be, let me connect the sleep issue with anxiety, and let me connect anxiety with a personality disorder. So which of my personality disorders will most likely have anxiety? Of course, somebody with paranoid, somebody that is schizotypal will most likely have anxiety. Somebody with emotional, the borderliners, they struggle with anxiety. Now, when I now connect it with those personality disorders, I will now know who can really have insomnia, but many of them do have insomnia. And that will all be chemical imbalance that we have to fix with some benzos or some other treatment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay away from benzos.
Stay away from benzos, maybe SSRIs or something else, or maybe
Thank you.
Please stay away
Thank
from
you.
benzos.
Thank
So
you very
I
much
have a
for
question.
that.
Is there a correlation between sundowning and astrology and numerical or genetic studies?
So I do have the sundowning details right here. I had to pull that. I had to cheat too, because I was like, this is all new to me. I don't want to be looking stupid with all this zodiac sign. So I did my research while we were right here, okay? So I actually found out that sun sign, these things are real, because I started to think, really, INFP's sun sign. So look, definition, the position of the sun at the time of birth, representing one's core identity or ego. So look, spiritual connection, they have connection to self or higher purpose. So they have impulsivity and aggression. So these things are real, which I didn't know until now. I have never explored astrology before, to be honest. It's all like Dr. O said, we're all glued to signs that we don't look outside of that. Now, what about moon sign? Moon sign, that one is connected to people with ISTJ. What up? I didn't get a whole lot of signs. So if you're looking for yours, if it's not here, this is not everything. This is not all inclusive. Rising sign is what? ESTP. And then planetary aspect is antisocial PD. And then houses are OCPD. And I have a few more, but then it's just interesting how this truly correlates. Because when they describe it, it's based on what our astrologers in the house, the ones that are strong in this, what they've been saying, that the position of the moon at the time of birth represents your emotional nature. I'm like, what? So, I mean, it kind of makes sense a little bit, but I just need to observe it now to see it more. But I have never paid attention to it. But definitely, but again, I was looking at the research to back it up though. It says here, research hypothetical, see, in bracket. Look, no scientific research. So no link. So we're still saying there is no link, there is no scientific evidence. There is no scientific evidence, okay? And this one says there is
but there is limited anecdotal, the first one, the sun sign.
So,
yeah.
so I'm thinking, I think it's something that we need to pour more research needs to pour into this for us to see more of the connection. But as of that, I don't know, but this is what I could pull. And there is a connection between moon and ISTJ. And don't forget, this ISTJ connects with a particular personality disorder, not multiple one of them actually avoidant. INFP connects with borderline personality disorder. So it's interesting to see it all integrate.
Amazing.
Yeah, so, I just did it.
Wow.
I never thought about it, but you're blowing my mind up when you was like, this is a little bit, like, I need to look it up. And I saw this.
Wow.
So there's a connection somewhere. Everybody's been talking about this moon, full moon, half moon. I'm like, okay, let me even look it up. So there must be something about it that we don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
But this is all I know for now. That's the truth. But I'll be exploring it. I'm curious now. You open my mind up. Thanks so much for all the responses tonight.
A lot of people are texting me about emailing the chats.
I will arrange and send to you what to send.
Please, if you can do that, that'll be fantastic. I keep saying go to YouTube. This is streamed live on YouTube and on Facebook. So if you search Medical Mondays with Dr. O, you can see this this episode and also all our past ones. But if I will still email to you all, excuse me, that have the email address of. If I don't have your email address and you want to get on our email list, kindly text me to let me have your email so I can include you. And this is April 6th, Saturday. I'll talk about that in a minute. So
yes, TJ. We haven't done that yet.
Okay,
One
now.
last one.
Okay, now. Question. Case in point, where do we place former President Trump? I didn't ask it. It's a question. You got to answer.
All right. All right. I want to keep my citizenship.
No, it tried to actually snatch citizenship, when it was in office. It was not successful. It was trying to look for a way where citizenships can be
Revoked.
voided or
Revoked.
revoked. Thank you. That's the word. But it wasn't successful. So answer the question, or anybody can answer if you think.
I'm going to quote what psychologists said about him because I had to look it up too. I've read about it many times. I've said it under my roof though. Now, psychologists believe he's actually a narcissist, and this is what they're thinking. And I researched though, and there's another content, but I don't know the validity of that research. They didn't say he's. They're claiming he's not. But because we all don't live with him, we don't know much. But the little that we see defines it. Look at narcissist, so we can decide, and then you can pick an answer based on the content. So who is a narcissist? It is characterized by what? Pervasive pattern of grandiosity. Grandiosity means what? It's a term that we use in psych, like I am God, I am everything. You need me, I can save your life, Need for admiration. Kiss me, kiss me, kiss me, and get punched in the face. Just kiss me again, and I'll punch you 4 more times. You want to be admired, but you don't know how to treat people right. They want to be admired. They lack empathy. And these are the people that can make fun of someone that is 80-year-old because they're getting sued by them. Oh, look at her hair. She's not as cute as this person. She's old. Who's going to mess with that? Look at her. Look at that handicapped person. That is someone that lacks empathy. It's only someone that lacks empathy that can make fun of an handicapped or an elderly person because they're just not happy with whatever, their case they're bringing up against them. Now, individuals with NPD often have an exaggerated sense of what? Self-importance. I am this, I am that. Who is he? Who is she? You don't get in their way, you're going down. You see how many people get fired on CNN? So you decide. So look, and then they pursue you to the hole too. If you do something wrong, they will chase you to the hole. You are not getting away with it. So you got to watch what you say. Exaggerated sense of self-importance, okay? That is according to the DSM-5 diagnosis right here. This is the exact definition word for word. All right, require excessive admiration, lack of empathy for others, or even their feelings or needs. So we can decide now together. Now, when it comes to relationships, so relationship may suffer due to ESTJ's needs. Of course, that's the group that they're going to fall under when it comes to MBTI. They want to dominate. They want to be admired. Those are real key features of a narcissist. And the worst thing is they lack empathy. But let's not forget, this is a psychopathology, meaning they don't even realize it. As good as you feel about yourself, they feel about themselves too. That is just the way it is. You see what I'm trying to say? It's going to take a lot for a narcissist to see that they are truly narcissists. It's going to take a lot. So when it comes to weakness, and everybody have strengths and weaknesses, what is the weakness of a narcissist? They want to prioritize their own needs over others. Amen to that. They lack empathy. They cannot acknowledge that they are guilty. They will never. Are you kidding? They will never. So now you decide. Now, what about strength? Leadership skills, goal-oriented, strong sense of responsibility. I don't know about, I'm not connecting with that. But goal-oriented, yes. Absolutely. They are focused and they know what they want to get and they're going to go get it, whatever it takes.
Even snatching people's citizenships. Sorry? Even snatching people's citizenships.
They would do anything that will make them feel good, they would do it. They would do it. And it's selfish. A lot of selfishness is portrayed by these people. They demonstrate that. When we look at other personality disorders, nothing really fits like a narcissist.
None. Nothing.
So
that answers the question.
Yeah.
So it did.
That is why the APA, the Psychological Association, they came up with this conclusion. We didn't on this platform.
We did it. I was going to say that.
It
We
was
did.
the research, based on research, that's what they came up with. And it was said publicly too.
Mm-hmm. And we're not establishing physician-patient interaction on this platform. We never do. And, you know, so that was not from Dr. Elisha or from me. This is a well-established fact. Thank you so much for that question.
You're welcome.
Brother Charles Busari said a lot of medical diagnosis has become common language and are being misused.
Correct.
You know? And Auntie Susan Oshifade said crazy in the US is by no means madness. She's right about that too. And Brother Charles said he has used MBTI for evaluating potential employees. So there's a question though, and I think this may be the last one. It says, how about rainy season, please? How does rainy season affect personalities?
Yeah. So that again it's all about what the patient reports. It makes a big difference in how they feel. And it doesn't affect every one of them. Many of them will say they feel good when it rains or when it's about to rain. But I think that's everybody. So it's hard to really go from that angle unless we have a good data to back it up. You see what I'm saying? When it comes to mania, I can make the connection too with that. Apart from the moon that they were talking about, some people too, when they're about to get manic, it starts around the raining season too. So I don't know. So it's complicated because of the differences, a lot of gaps and differences in results. We can't really solidify those concepts unless we do more research and see the validity and see how true it is, but we don't know. And because of the way we collect data too, see what I'm saying? We don't tend to go with zodiac signs or weather. So this is going to be interesting to see more research being done there. More research being done in that area, but it's tough to just judge based on that because there's a lot of factors. What are the family members saying? What are the friends saying? What do you see? How do you see yourself? Then we put it all together to come up with a concrete diagnosis.
I agree, but I just noticed something. You were looking for the ESTJ personality, remember? And you couldn't find it? Dr. Elijah.
I actually found it. It's right here. I finally
found it. It's down. Move up a little. Yeah, ESTJ personality. So you see the obsessive compulsive disorder.
Mm-hmm.
Can you say something about it? Because you started with that and then
No, I only focus on the personality. And one of my clients that took my test actually is Gaddis, and I was able to connect with, okay, what specifically, and it doesn't mean all of them, but it can be this obsessive compulsive PD, they can be antisocial PD, and they can also be borderline. They can be those 4 things. And what do they really struggle with? Their struggle is and the strengths, sorry, the weakness in relationship. Okay, it's right here. Relationships, they may suffer due to the need for dominance. They may suffer due to the rigid adherence to rules and standards. That is why they may struggle in relationships. That was the only one I was missing earlier. They may struggle with authority and may engage in manipulative behavior to achieve their goals, which can strain relationships and lead to legal or ethical issues. ESTJs with borderline personality traits may also struggle with emotional vitality. So they are very fragile. Every little thing gets to them. So for that reason, they have challenges in maintaining fulfilling, stable relationships. And we have the little code to go with it as well, the DSM-5 code. But yeah, that is their struggle in relationships. But with everything that comes with a weakness, we also have strengths. They usually, you see them in leadership positions. You'll be so shocked, okay? By the time I throw in celebrity into this table, you'll be so shocked who has these personalities. And those are research-based. Those are the things that they declared publicly, right? And then the tool picked it up. So I have ones with celebrities as well. And it's interesting that these are people like us. So nobody's perfect. So If any of this is yours and it resonates with you and you have some kind of struggle or somebody constantly complains about this, or you're too controlling or you're too this or you're too rigid or you're not flexible, then all you're going to just do is start looking into it. That's all it is. Or if somebody is saying you're too emotionally reactive, it's simple. Just start looking into it. And then when you want to react about something, then you try to tone it down, thinking, okay, I think I realize who I am. I think I can get to, because people will not tell you too what your weakness is. So if you have the opportunity to actually come here or be here today and you realize what your weaknesses are, then it's time to start fixing it. So you will not perfectly fix it. We all have strengths, we all have weaknesses, but you can slowly make amends, and then your relationship start getting better. Then you have peace, they have peace, then the world is going to be peaceful together. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much. Because the first person you had the survey from as the ESTJ, and you can find it in that list then. So I'm glad you were able to pull it up. Attorney Tino said she loves you already, that she's glad you went in search of more knowledge versus your previous characterization of voodoo.
I'm not sure voodoo. I need to look more into voodoo too, I guess.
Because I think you said, you didn't believe in the voodoo and,
Which is wrong, really. That is not culturally sensitive too. That was wrong to say.
Well, the Bible says that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against spiritual principalities in high places. But, the Lord got us. Brother Charles posted something. I am struggling with it. Extraversion, introversion, sensing, intrusion. Oh, different personalities, I believe. I think you mentioned all of this in the beginning. So there are questions.
Yeah.
We were able to go through all the questions. I'm very excited for this episode tonight. And remember, Dr. Elisha helps and holds the hands of nurse practitioners and help them through certifications. In the chat box, you will see a website on how to connect. Please refer everyone and anyone. I do, because I want all of them to pass, and they pass. So also you will see on the platform NAPAC CDI as a virtual meet on Saturday, April 6th at 11:30 East Standard Time. And our own brother, Charles Busari, who has been on the platform tonight and has been very, very, interactive, is one of the speakers, and they'll be talking about Africa and the global IT infrastructure. I forgot to tell you, he's an IT guru. He has helped me a lot too in the past. So please take picture, do the, Scantron, technology is amazing. And so you can have this on your phone, in your calendar for April 6th. And the Nigerian American Lawyers Association, I said last week, giving me an award.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yes.
You deserve it.
April 26th at 7 p.m. in Maryland. The venue is right there, the Veterans Place in Silver Spring, Maryland. Everybody's invited. Please, he has the Scantron also. Please come on out. Let's hang out. Come support me. And if we haven't met, it'll be a great time and place to meet. For people we have met, it'll be a great time to hang out. So, Dr. Elisha, kindly give us your parting words for tonight.
All right. So thank you so much all for listening tonight. Your contributions is amazing. You opened my mind to other things tonight, and I really appreciate it. So I hope we have all taken tonight away that we need to learn more about ourselves. Then we can cope better with relationship. When we cope better with relationship, our mental health will be good too. We found out that a lot of psychopathologies actually happen because of terrible relationships. So we need to take it seriously, more seriously than anything. If your relationship is straight, other aspects will be straight as well. And it starts with us. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. This has been amazing. Like you, I learned a lot. So till we meet next week, it's going to be, again, another different Medical Mondays with Dr. O. Everyone is different. Every single episode that we have is just God blessed. But this time is going to be one of our own children who is coming to talk to us about something very dear, very, very personal. And I pray that we all can, make it again till we see next week.